respects to President Nelson until that time. President Nelson's funeral will then take place tomorrow, but you will need a ticket if you want to attend that in person. The church, though, will be broadcasting the funeral so everyone can watch it. You can catch it live here on KSL News Radio, as well as KSL 5 TV, the KSL News YouTube channel, and the KSL Plus app. The funeral starts at noon tomorrow. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
We are getting reports from Australian news agencies that a meeting house for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was partially destroyed in a fire early today. No one was inside the building at the time of the fire. Fire crews told the local news outlets firefighters were able to stop the fire from reaching the chapel portion of the building. Our top national story this hour, we are now in the 6th day of the government shutdown. ABC's Alex Perchet.
The Trump administration is preparing to follow through on a threat to start mass layoffs and make permanent federal spending cuts in an attempt to pressure unwavering Democrats. Roughly 4 million federal workers could go without a paycheck during this shutdown. Trump has already frozen federal funds for projects in 16 states that voted blue in the last election.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 97 points. Right now we're at 46,656. Coming up, sunny but cool for the next few days. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. And here is Michelle Rowe.
Delays southbound I-15 from Kaysville to the Farmington split due to a crash. Also, more delays southbound I-15 in the heart of the valley from Midvale, headed down to the Draper area due to an earlier vehicle fire. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs will be in the low to mid 60s in the next couple of days with mostly sunny skies. Rain forecast to return late Friday and Saturday. Right now it's 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We have breaking news, and before I get to the breaking news, the real breaking news is that I'm alongside Jason Perry today from the Hinckley Institute. Thank you for joining me, Jason. It's fun to have a co-host and somebody that I've admired for so long.
Greg, you're always so great. I'm thrilled to be with you, and so much is happening today. This is going to be a good show.
Yeah, it is going to be a fun show. So the breaking news of the morning is not necessarily breaking news, but the legislative task force that was set up, Jason, to propose a map to the judge, and our guest can help me out with this, met this morning at 8 o'clock. The special session of the legislature starts at 9, so they just barely started, and they voted to pass along Map C.
I'll now place the motion. All in favor of recommending Map C to the full body of the legislature say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. No. We'll make sure the noes are counted, Representative Owens and Senator Escamilla. I'll rule the motion passes.
So no surprise there, although we're going to call it breaking news because that's always a good way to start the show. But we do have Senator Todd Weiler with us. And we talked to Todd last week about this also. Todd, first of all, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Jason.
So do you feel just that Map C was the best choice?
Well, I did, and I would have told you that 2 weeks ago. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have told you, but that was my impression. And I was actually a little bit disappointed that the Utah Republican Party sent out an email last week encouraging people to voice their support for Map C, because now we'll be accused of just doing what the party told us to do if we adopt Map C, and that's my concern.
I was kind of thinking, Todd, that one of the reasons to do that, which made sense to me, is that if, and I'm just looking at the math of it, I may have talked to you about this last week, but if the Republicans put 5 maps forward and the Democrats put 1, then the Republican maps would be divided 5 ways. And so maybe sort of articulating one that might be better rather than
I understand that logic, but we were always going to get one map forwarded as recommended by this committee, which met this morning. And so the motion on both floors will be to accept the recommendation from the redistricting committee, and that motion will either be voted up or down. But now that motion will be Map C.
Hey, Senator, talk for a moment about how we got to this Map C. Everyone was evaluating. We heard in the committee meeting this morning there were over 4,500 people submitted comments and questions about it. And there was, of course, the discussion had happened before the committee met this morning by virtue of just having a motion and then a pass. Talk about how we got to that one and sort of what was happening on the inside as sort of all your colleagues got to consensus on one map.
Yeah. So, and by the way, the committee this morning, their meeting was less than 10 minutes. But, so basically the legislature hired one of the nation's leading map drawing experts. They gave him a copy of Prop 4 and said, draw us at least 5 maps that are consistent with Prop 4, and that's maps A through E. And then the Democrats said, well, wait a second, we want our own expert. So I think we gave them a little bit of money, and their expert brought forth one map, and that was the Democratic map. So none of these maps have been drawn by legislators, and all 6 of them are consistent with Prop 4. I think some of them are more consistent than others, but they're all 6, Prop 4 maps.
So, Todd, just in terms of your own legal analysis, and I'm glad that you're an attorney, do you think that, obviously we're not holding you at anything, do you think that this particular map, I should say, is going to be okay with where we're going now in terms of the judge? And maybe you could explain what happens with the judge at this point after today.
So the judge, back in August, when she made her ruling, August 25th, she set up an evidentiary hearing that will now be in about 2 weeks. And I think the concern back then from the judge and maybe the plaintiffs in that lawsuit was that the legislature would just say, no, we're not adopting new maps. And then the court would basically be forced to pick one, which I think would be disastrous constitutionally, just my opinion. But instead, the legislature said, we're going to do everything we can to comply with this court's ruling. And I think if we picked any of those 6 maps, including Map C, I think the judge would, pretty much be duty-bound to accept it, because her job as a gatekeeper is to make sure that the map comports with Prop 4. And in my opinion, all 6 of them do. So I think she will rubber stamp whatever map the legislature forwards her, because they're going to have expert witness testimony that says, yes, this meets all the elements of Prop 4.
Do you expect her to be taking expert testimony to that? Because that certainly was one of the requirements she put forward, is you have to follow.
I do. Yeah, I do expect she'll take expert testimony, and she might take expert testimony from several different experts. But at the end of the day, if the map that the legislature forwards today meets Prop 4, I don't think her analysis will go any further.
So you believe that the expert that the Republicans consulted will testify that in his or her expert opinion, Map C does meet with the requirements of Prop 4?
Yes. Yeah, because it does. Number one, it does. And number two, that was the assignment he was given, is give us 5 maps that meet Prop 4 100%. And they all do. Interestingly, the Democratic map, it splits 13 cities and 5 counties, where all the Republican maps only split 2 or 3 cities and 2 or 3 counties. So I was shocked to see that, because Prop 4 really values not splitting cities and counties. So I was surprised that they would come forward with a map that was like 4 times as many splits as the Republican maps, if you want to call them the majority party maps.
I was kind of curious, the decision to go ahead and submit a map, because certainly you could have said no, that this is not what we want to do. And Senator Sandel did mention at least once that this was being done under duress. I think that was what he was talking about too. Kind of talk about that dynamic, how you all worked through that particular issue and decided, yes, we will do this.
Yeah, for 60 years, Jason, over 60 years, Utah Supreme Court has issued rulings saying that the power of the people to initiate is equal to, but not greater than, the power of the legislature to legislate. And that most recent decision before last year was in a case called Power versus Lehigh City, which was a 5-0 decision. And one thing I can't do as a legislator is I can't pass a bill this year and says, hands off, nobody can touch this bill next year or 5 years or 10 years. I can't do that. But last year, the Utah Supreme Court changed their mind, and they said, well, the power of the people to initiate is a little bit better than the power of the legislature if it alters or reforms government. So when we worked with the Better Boundaries to pass Senate Bill 200 5 years ago, which replaced Prop 4, because Prop 4 had some pretty obvious defects. And when were pointed out to the drafters, they tended to agree, is my understanding. So all of the redistricting commission maps and the map we ultimately adopted were based off of the standards in Senate Bill 200, not on Prop 4. And that, Greg, is the reason why we couldn't just go back to one of the redistricting commission maps, because those were not drafted in accordance with Prop 4. Those were drafted in accordance with Senate Bill 200.
Todd, I've got about 30 seconds left. Can you tell me, the special session that's been called, it looks like they've got like 11 items to address. How long is the session, and do you expect that you'll get through all of those?
Yeah, we expect we'll go until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. I think we will get through all of them. A lot of them are technical, non-controversial bills. And, it's been now 7 or 8 months since our general session ended. So when the governor didn't veto some of the bills, he said, we'll come back into special session and fix these. A lot of us expected that would happen in May or June, and now here we are, October.
All right. Well, thanks, Todd. Thanks for your time. I know you're busy this morning. That was Senator Todd Weiler. And when we come back, we're going to hear some live reaction from Better Boundaries on Map C moving forward. Stay with us.
We honor President Russell M. Nelson.
Can family life endure beyond this period of mortal probation? Yes.
Next Tuesday, KSL will broadcast the memorial and final tributes to President Nelson from noon until 2.
My dear brothers and sisters,
remembering President Russell M. Nelson.
The best is yet to come.
Starting Tuesday at noon on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, sometimes a deal is so good that they decide to extend it because they want more people to have an opportunity. That's what Bedrock Quartz is doing with their employee pricing deal.
They are extending it through the month of October, so you pay what an employee would pay, and you can get your new kitchen or your new bathroom done before the holidays.
The only limit is your imagination. They have over 100 different options for countertops, including quartz, quartzite, granite, marble. They can do bathrooms. What can't they do? They do backsplashes.
And their attention to detail is extraordinary. Andy and I went to their facility in West Jordan where they cut the marble and the quartz, and just to see how meticulous they were with cutting that stone, not to mention the installation process.
Yeah, they do 35 kitchens every day, so they're experienced, they're proficient, and they'll work with you. Whatever you want, they can take care of.
They've got showrooms all over the place in West Jordan, Layton, Murray, Park City, Sandy, Pleasant Grove, Spanish Fork, St. George, and Salt Lake City, but
you can also go to bedrockquartz.com.
You worked hard for your 401k, but if you've left your job, your money might be sitting in the wrong hands. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and it's very possible that the 401k that you have had for years has hidden fees and limited investment choices. But if you're no longer with the company, that 401k may be at the mercy of your former employer. All of these things could be costing you thousands. Rolling over your 401k into an IRA can provide better investment options that align with your long-term goals. At Trajan Wealth, we're fiduciary advisors that are held to a higher standard with no hidden agenda and no hidden fees. Don't let your retirement dollars sit in an old plan, and don't roll it over to your new plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services are offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Attention RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to Provo Town Center for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking, dealers welcome. The used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV, Provo Town Center, 1200 Town Center Boulevard, Provo. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH, that sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month, zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Annie's first oil change wasn't as hard as she thought because she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The new Inside Sources.
Welcome back. As we discussed in the last segment with Todd Weiler, Map C, the legislative districting map, has moved on from committee, now moves for the full legislative session. We're going to talk now with Elizabeth Rasmussen, Executive Director of Better Boundaries. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us this morning.
No, thank you so much for having me.
So, any surprise in where we are right now?
We're not surprised by the outcome today, especially after the Utah GOP pushed for this map to be implemented. And so it's not a shock, but we're still disappointed in the outcome.
Do you know why, of the 5 maps, and maybe it will just make sense, they pushed Map C, or why they even pushed a map at all?
I don't know why they pushed a map at all, especially since it's been very clear from the committee that this should not be a partisan process. And so that part is surprising, but they said in their email to everyone that it's because it was most favorable to them. And so that's the reason why they pushed it.
In terms of the maps in general, I mean, and the guidelines that the court and Prop 4 gave us, do you feel like we're in line with what the voters wanted when they went to the ballot in 2018?
I did appreciate that they really focused on keeping cities and counties together. So that was something that was very refreshing to see. However, we are concerned about Brammer's bill, which fundamentally redefines Proposition 4 and how it measures the map's fairness. So we're very concerned about that coming up today during special session.
Elizabeth, do you mind taking a second to explain some of your concerns about Map C? What are there some of the criteria that you think it violates? Kind of just what you are looking for as you've seen the whole arc of this question really coming forward. You think that maybe was not met by this map.
Our concern was the emphasis on the partisan bias test used to measure the map's fairness. And these maps, as far as we can tell from the data that has been presented, were crafted with the purpose of passing the partisan bias test, which is a flawed test to be used in Utah and can give skewed outcomes. So that's been our concern through this whole process and why we're also concerned about Brammer's bill today.
So I want to talk about Brammer's bill if we could, Elizabeth. I look at the special session, the items on the docket for the special session, and it includes not only the congressional boundaries, but redistricting standards, which is Brady Brammer's bill. Can you tell us what that would do moving forward if that passes?
Yeah, so Brady Brammer's bill will lock in 3 tests to measure a map's fairness. The problem with this is that once you lock in specific tests into law, you can make it easy for politicians to work around these tests, which is what we believe they did with Map C. So they drew a map that technically passes these tests, but it still protects themselves in the end. And so what Proposition 4 said was use the best data, use the best methods, use the best measures to measure a map's fairness. And right now we're just seeing them lock in specific tests that benefit themselves, which is an issue.
When you think about what the test should be, when you're looking at this, essentially what the voters were banning was this undue partisan favoritism. When you think about what the standards should be, what would it be? What's your biggest item you're advocating for that is not met here?
Well, really, they shouldn't be locking in any tests at all. It's the idea that we should freeze a moving target. Fairness can't be measured by a short checklist. It takes a lot of judgment. It takes data and evolving standards, because the measures of partisan symmetry, the best data, are going to change over time. And so that's why Prop 4 was written the way it did. It allows for flexibility to change with the changing population, changing scientific methods, and this bill just replaces that flexibility with rigidity.
Elizabeth, can you just walk us back to 2018 when Prop 4 was passed and tell us, and I know this is a mouthful, but how we got from there to here and what you think is still on the table in terms of maybe legal issues?
Yeah, so Prop 4 was passed in 2018, but before that, it really had a rigorous process to even qualify for the ballot. So passing a ballot initiative in Utah is no small thing. After it was passed, the legislature replaced Proposition 4 with SB 200, which took away a lot of the standards that were required to make a map fair, which was a problem. And so we have some brave Utahns who decided to sue over this and say what the legislature did was unconstitutional. And both the district court and the Supreme Court have reiterated, yes, what they did was unconstitutional. And that's why we're in this process right now to reinstitute Prop 4 and create a map that complies with the law. And so the issue right now is that they are, again, kind of repeating history, if you think about it, trying to change Proposition 4 through a bill today, like they did back when they passed SB 200. And so really all people want in Utah, all Utahns want is for them to follow the law. Prop 4 was clear, and we just hope that they would just follow it, but we're seeing that they really are not.
So do you believe that Map C still doesn't follow the law?
It does better. I will say it is an improvement. It is an improvement from what we had before because they did have a good faith effort in following the standards. There are 8 standards that need to be followed by keeping communities together, keeping counties together, respecting natural boundaries, that kind of thing. But the problem is with the additional requirements. They're not following Prop 4 in its requirement to not unduly favor or disfavor a politician or party, and it's because they're applying tests that don't accurately measure fairness.
So really quick question on what really happens next as well. We had Senator Todd Weiler on just a moment ago, and he was talking about how he expects that after this Map C is passed by the legislature, that they'll present it to the judge, and experts will come and say that it does meet the requirements of Prop 4. Maybe talk about that for just a moment based on what you just told us, because that's at least what he thinks the process might be. What do you think it might be?
Well, this is why Brammer's bill is a problem, because if they pass it, they can point to it and say, look, it passes fairness tests because these are the fairness tests we chose. But those ignore additional evidence that show that this map could be a problem. And so part of this legal battle is making sure Prop 4 is followed. So, of course, we'll be making it, incorporating, or I don't want to speculate too much, but incorporating in some way these new additional clarifications, you could say, of the law or how they interpret it, and it could be a problem for the legal battle. I don't think it's as cut and dry as Senator Weiler is saying. I think the judge will see what Brammer's bill is for what it is, and it's going to be a really hard process, but one we're willing to fight.
We're speaking this morning with Elizabeth Rasmussen, Executive Director of Better Boundaries. And I guess, Elizabeth, the lawyer in me asks, does Brammer's bill enact retroactively? I mean, will it apply to this particular question? I just assumed it was to deal with these issues in the future. Does it deal with this particular issue?
As far as like the 2021 map, or
yeah.
I know that the legislature has indicated that they're going to appeal the decision that has been made to reinstitute Prop 4, and if they're successful, they'll reinstitute the 2021 map. I don't believe Brammer's bill. I believe it's just been crafted to pass the map they want now, but I would have to look more into that to see if it is retroactive.
I'm kind of curious if I can talk about this overall process, because you understand the initiative process like not many others do now in the state, and you talked about that pretty clearly. But where do you see this going when you start talking about the constitutional powers that go to the right of the constitutional legislative power of the people being co-equal to that of the legislature?
And that really is the crux of everything here. The Utah Constitution has stated two things very clearly. One, that the legislature shall draw these boundaries, but also that the people have the right to alter and reform their government. Additionally, the court has clarified that when the people are using the ballot initiative to alter and reform their government, they're acting as a legislative body. And so that's part of it. And so Proposition 4 doesn't take away the power from the legislature at all. It just adds additional checks to them in how they craft maps. It still allows them to craft a map, but they still need to follow the law. They're not above the law. And so Prop 4 is in place so that we can have that additional check on the power so they don't unduly favor or disfavor a person or a party. And that's all we're fighting for right now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was Elizabeth Rasmussen, Executive Director of Better Boundaries. And when we come back, did you get rained on this weekend?
I sure did.
I think the whole Wasatch Front did. We're going to talk about that when we come back and learn that Tooele residents were actually commuting by boat, it seemed like, this weekend in a rare downpour. KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson joins us next.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story today, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is holding a public viewing for the late church president, President Russell M. Nelson. People are welcome to stop by the conference center in Salt Lake City until 8 o'clock tonight to pay your respects to President Nelson. His funeral will be held tomorrow at noon, which you will be able to hear live here on KSL News Radio. The heavy rain is a great start to the water totals for October, but most of the state is still in drought. Right now, about 76% of Utah is in severe drought, and just over 15% is in extreme drought. National Weather Service senior meteorologist Monica Trapphagen says while any amount of rain is welcome, it doesn't make a huge difference overall.
The major driver of drought in our water supply comes from our winter snowpack.
Current weather outlooks for the next 3 months show there is about a 50% chance of rain, but she says she'll continue to follow that, and we will as well. A Utah resident who died in an aerial battle in the South Pacific during World War II is finally returning home to Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has details.
Howard Holding was a musician and college student in Salt Lake before entering the U.S. Navy aviation program in 1942. He was shot down trying to secure Yap Island in 1944, but his body wasn't found for almost a year. The remains were buried in the Manila American Cemetery until DNA testing finally identified who he was.
Holding will be buried at the Salt Lake City Cemetery on October 17th. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now is down 72 points. We're at 46,685. Coming up, almost perfect fall temperatures. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, I had the chance to see a brand new play at Hale Center Theater, and it's the musical comedy Murders of 1940. And I'm just going to read what I wrote to Sally Dietlein right after I got out to my truck. I just had to let her know how much I enjoyed it, and I said, a black and white screwball film noir comedy complete with Nazis you have outdone yourself. This is so unique. The entire play, save only one character, is in black and white. Sally wrote back and said, yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever done, and she used this term, grayscape. It is so unique. You are going to love it. And then just down the hall, Sister Act is showing, and all kinds of wonderful performances still to come, like Frozen. We've already got our tickets for our grandkids. Go to hct.org or get your tickets at the box office. And don't forget, get your 2026 season tickets.
We have emergency traffic and weather brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. What's going on, Michelle?
This is due to delays northbound I-15 from police activity. This is just prior to University Parkway in Orem. Traffic's backing up to Center Street in Provo, so you'll need to allow a few extra minutes to get through that area. Prep for winter. Get a furnace inspection from a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A reminder from Enbridge Gas. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs will be in the low and mid-60s for the next couple of days with mostly sunny skies. Rain forecast for Friday and Saturday. Right now it's 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm joined this morning by Jason Perry, Vice President of Government Relations, University of Utah, Director of Hinckley Institute of Politics. And Jason, before I get to your answer, let me tell you what I did Saturday.
Yes.
My wife and I decided it was a great day to travel out south from our home in the Ogden Valley and pick up a trailer load of furniture. Now, this is an uncovered trailer load of furniture. We drove and we're looking at the weather charts. Well, it's going to stop about 10:30. We'll get there. I back the trailer up. It starts raining more and more. Luckily, there was a hardware store very close by that sold tarps. Of course, what you don't realize with these trailers is they have an underbelly too. You know, they're hollow. I mean, our furniture is, I don't know how badly it is ruined. I haven't dared open the cardboard boxes, but it was a hopeless endeavor. And you did the smartest thing.
Yes, I was on the deck watching the snow fall in Park City.
Yeah, there you go.
It was beautiful and amazing to see the snow already in some parts of the state.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't. We're driving back, and I'm thinking, why did we do this?
Yeah,
we got a good deal. We got a good deal on the furniture.
I'm sure.
So we're gonna.
Better.
Who knows? It's all gonna be in the landfill in a week. We're joined this morning in studio by Matt Johnson, KSL meteorologist. Matt, this was a big one. This, in terms of rainstorms, this one seemed pretty significant.
Yeah, and you know, we really needed it. This was a major storm, and it wasn't just an isolated pocket like a thunderstorm cell, right? This was widespread from Logan south to Provo, picking up at least 1 to 3 inches. And we even broke some records in Salt Lake City.
So talk to us. Tell us about some of the numbers that we saw.
Yeah, so, the biggest total we've seen down at the valley floor, of course, was Stansbury Park, 3.74 inches. That is a summer's worth of rain. And I use that verbiage that way because we came off a summer that was top 5 driest for many cities along the Wasatch Front. So to pick it up all at once, parched land, it's not going to soak in. So we had some flooding, right, in the area. Dozens of homes, actually, from Rose Park to Stansbury Park, Tooele Valley. But some of the other totals. Tooele City proper, 2.76. Salt Lake City, storm total of 2.61. But in a 24-hour period, we picked up 2.47, which was our second wettest day ever recorded in Salt Lake City history. So within 151 years of record keeping, that's impressive.
Wow, that's a lot of water. I'm so curious. When you talk about like a summer's worth of rain, this is the wannabe meteorologist, asking questions.
Oh, I love it.
Just so interested about that. When you talk about how much water we need, we all say so much rain. We need it, which is completely true. Right. Does it go where we need it? If you have this much water all at once, I mean, it's just something I always wonder. Okay, did that just help us?
Right, it definitely helped us, right? But since it came all at once, you get a lot of runoff and you get a lot of dirty water with that, and sometimes it's harder to get that purified and used as drinking water, right? There's complications with that, with flood water. However, the Great Salt Lake, everything that fell within the Salt Lake Valley, Tooele Valley, Davis, Weber, Box Elder, that all drains to the Great Salt Lake. I did a little bit of math, and actually it's about 67,000 gallons of water that fell if your rain total was 2.47 inches, and there were many locations that were at or above that mark, that's over a 1 acre parcel of land. If you get 2.4,
I was going to say,
yeah, sorry.
right.
And so you take that over dozens of acres.
Hundreds, right.
Yeah. I was watching radar, and it filled in over several acres. I would say over 100 acres. And so I just looked before I came in. I looked at the Great Salt Lake water levels. Obviously, haven't seen anything reflected, but that's going to help, right? Those gallons aren't just evaporating. They're definitely adding in. So kind of some interesting little factoid there.
So tell our listeners what 2.5 inches of rain in Salt Lake Valley means in terms of the summer, the year. You said a summer's worth. Is it literally a summer's worth of rain?
That is literally, that is actually more than a summer's worth. I believe June, July, and August, which is a 3-month span, which we consider summer in the meteorological world, we do about, I think it's anywhere from a half inch to an inch over that span. One of the months is 0.79, another one's 0.5, and the other one's around 0.6. And so that's short of the mark, right? That's not even over. That's not even 2.5.
That's not even 2, right?
And the great thing is it wasn't just over one city or one little pocket of thunderstorm, right? We can get these huge totals with one little thunderstorm in the summer, but to have that over a widespread area, I think it did wonders for us.
I'm so curious when you see something like this happen, and I only know enough to be dangerous here, but you have a lot of models you're following that kind of give you some ideas. For someone who loves this so much, I mean, are you kind of nerding out about what this was, what this means for future models, what this kind of shows, and your ability to figure out what's going on in Utah?
Yeah, very fascinating. I've been geeking out with it with some other weather enthusiasts across the Wasatch Front. One of the things we were talking about is, hey, leading into this storm, you are really, as a meteorologist, you are confined to what you can look at, right? I'm not going to go on TV and say, hey, there's one model going for 2.5 inches, and this was the case, right? 2.5 inches, only one model went for it, but the other, 6+ were saying, hey, anywhere from a half inch to an inch is reasonable here. This is the consensus. But what it tells us for future forecasting is, though, and I say this on air to everyone because I get this question a lot, is the potential is here, but the confidence level, the potential is out the roof, but the possibility of that happening is near zero sometimes, right? It was a non-zero chance, right? It was around 5% chance we could see something like that, and it realized. And so what that tells us in future forecasting and something we have to put in our back pocket here is, well, there's a lot more than goes. We're limited, right, with the model data. They're computers. They're trying to tell the future. Telling the future is a very hard thing, especially when it comes to a complex system such as the atmosphere. And so it just tells us when the potential's there, it might be worth mentioning because it may just happen. But we'll say the brunt of the data, the consensus, the average is right around here.
It seems like we were heading, and I may be wrong with my dates, Matt, but it seemed like we were heading into the end of August, and it had been a particularly dry summer, and then we got blasted. It may have been the end of August or maybe right before fall, but we had another huge storm. Not what we're talking about here, but it was a big storm. Are these models something that we're looking at, these mega storms that we're not really used to, I guess? That one and especially this one?
And not to get into the weeds too much, right? Because it turns political, but climate change is a thing. Whether you know science or not, if you've lived here long enough, you lived in anywhere in the United States, in the world, if you've lived over 25 years, you've seen your climate change, right? Undisputable. Whether that's human-induced or not is up for grabs, and we're not going to get into the weeds with that. But what I will say is that what we know about the changing climate is that this weather whiplash, right? From drought to flood to freeze to snow to back to drought. This weather whiplash is a more common occurrence the deeper into the climate change process we go. And I'll just leave it at that because if we get people want to get political with it, but it's a spectacular thing to watch because it's realizing whether you believe in it or not, it's happening, right? These types of events.
Last question. We've only got about 30 seconds. Snowfall. Jason said he saw some up in the Park City area. Did we get snow?
Oh, yeah. 11 inches up at Brighton, top of Brighton. Alta recorded 7 inches. I got that in yesterday morning. And this is great. We want to get that soil moisture up so that when we start building real snowpack come winter, it won't just soak into the sponge of dry soil. It'll go to our tributaries and rivers and lakes, and we'll love it.
Brighton got 11 inches.
Wow. Yeah. Is that amazing?
That's great. That's wonderful.
Some resorts are announcing their opening day already.
Yeah.
Well, they might be onto something.
Yeah. Unless it warms
Hopefully.
up. Thanks, Matt. That was Matt Johnson, KSL meteorologist. When we come back, a lot of Utah Democrats are registered as Republicans, in part because they can participate in the primaries. Democratic Party Chair Brian King says now it's time to, quote, come home. That's coming up next, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Jump on your brooms and fly to Logan for fantastic fall festivities. It's finally cooling off and we're so glad. Grab your flannel and celebrate harvest season in style, especially October 10th and 11th. Step back in time at the American West Heritage Center for their annual Fall Harvest Festival. See grain threshing with antique machinery, take a pony ride or train ride, and see cider pressing and corn shelling. Or check out the Rock and Gem Show with minerals and rocks and fossils. Oh my! Catch a live performance of the hilarious Broadway hit The Addams Family. Watch it inside the 1923 Ellen Eccles Theater, which really is haunted. Dive into a month full of hocus pocus and hair-raising hauntings on the historic downtown Logan Ghost Tour or at the Haunted River Trail. Traipse through 2 giant corn mazes, visit the North Logan Pumpkin Walk, or check out live theater and music performances and USU football games. Fall in love with fall in Logan. ExploreLogan.com/fall. ExploreLogan.com/fall.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than the end of October, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The United States is facing a mental health crisis, but there is hope. At Huntsman Mental Health Foundation, they're transforming how mental health is treated and researched, bringing compassion, innovation, and access to those who need it most. Your donation helps fund life-saving care and cutting-edge research that leads to better treatment for everyone. It's already making a difference. Huntsman Mental Health Foundation has built Utah's first ever mental health crisis care center, open 24/7 to anyone, regardless of ability to pay. They've also recently launched a youth crisis care program at Huntsman Mental Health Institute, giving kids and teens immediate support. And Huntsman Mental Health Foundation is expanding services like therapy, medication management, geriatric care, and treatment-resistant support. Join us. Be part of the change. Donate today at hmhf.org. That's hmhf.org.
Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm alongside Jason Perry from the Hinckley Institute. It's nice to be able to ask you questions for once instead of having you ask me questions. And by the way, I think you need to get that Scortis guy on your program a little more often. We hear good reviews of him.
Well, everyone loves you. I've loved it when you've been on the Hinckley Report, but apparently you've got this new gig every day.
I know, every morning, right? Yeah. Oh, well, and you tape in the morning.
Yes, that's true. Maybe we'll change that up just to get you.
I have to tell our listeners my Jason Perry story because I asked you when you started practicing law, and it was about 1999. I remember meeting you in the early days, and you were working at the time at the Attorney General's office.
That's right.
And I thought, this guy is going to be on the Supreme Court someday. This guy is so impressive and so polished and so good. And I'm sure you could have been, but just pivoting as you did to the Hinckley Institute and what you did over there, it surprised some of us. But I also think it was looking back, it was a perfect fit for you.
Well, I have loved it. I have to tell you that. I mean, it's one of those jobs where I get to be involved in a lot, but like the great opportunities for these students, like these kids are so excited and optimistic about life. I try to make sure it works.
Yeah, it's fun. I love watching your show. I also love talking to Brian King, the new Democratic Party chair. Brian, thanks for joining us this morning. We want to talk to you about a couple of things, not the least of which is your call for Democrats to, what you're saying, come home. And Jason and I were talking about the reasons for that, but maybe you can state the reason for that.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense that if you're going to set up an organization and ask people to be a part of it, that you want people to affiliate with it, that you want people to sign up to be a part of your organization. And one of the things that Democrats have gotten in the habit of doing, some Democrats, not most, but some Democrats have said, I vote Democratic and I am a Democrat, but I think that the best way to have my voice heard and have an impact in Utah politics is to register as a Republican and try and soften the rough edges of that party from within. A lot of people call these folks rhinos, Republicans in name only, and to some extent that's accurate. But the problem with that is, number one, this party, the Republican Party, has become so tied to one person and one person's agenda that it doesn't matter who you vote for within the Republican Party. You're going to get someone who is a supporter of Donald Trump, and there may be varying degrees of support, but the reality is that, the Republican Party today is pretty much aligned with that one person and his personality. Doesn't have to do much with principles, doesn't have to do much with policy issues. It's just, are you loyal to Donald Trump? So, we've failed, in other words, to knock off the rough edges of today's Republican Party, number one. But number two, and more important in many respects, it weakens the Democratic Party to have people who consider themselves Democrats and vote Democratic leave the party for purposes of us within the party being able to know who they are and to organize them and to educate them and to inform them about certain things that are happening within the party. So it's basically a call to strengthen the party and come home and call yourself a Democrat and recognize that this is a two-party system, like it or not, for better or worse in this country and in this state. We need to gather around the party that is in favor of the Constitution, the rule of law today.
If I can just ask you a question, Brian, and by the way, Brian was just on the Hinckley Report this past week, was excellent also talking about a couple of these issues. But I'm kind of curious, kind of this idea, like you had a certain name. Sometimes in the past, some people call them the party raiders, people who are, were always Democrats, but were getting involved in registering as Republicans to impact the primaries in particular. But the idea, and there are even people who are in your position in the past that talked about this, where that was how they would influence who the candidates actually are. Have circumstances changed a little bit there, where the power really is in coming back, affiliate with the party that you identify with, instead of some who felt compelled to register as a Republican to have influence on the Republican side? Tell us what you're doing as the chair to say coming home is actually the safest and best political move.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. You're right. And part of the thing that has happened, as we all know, is that there has been this polarization taking place. I don't really like it in many respects. I mean, to become polarized is really damaging to us as a society at large. But here's the reality. We've got one party and the leadership of one party who insists on doing that polarizing, and they're very effective at it and very good. And once you have people on one side really saying we insist on polarizing, and they gain the benefits of polarizing by having people sort of rally to their team red in this case, you have to deal with that reality. You have to address it. And the best way of addressing it is to have a valid and a comparable counterweight. And the counterweight, again, like it or not, we have a two-party system in this state and in this country. And the only valid counterweight, the best counterweight that we can come up with to the MAGA movement right now is a strong Democratic Party, a party that stands up and says, we believe in our civil liberties, we believe in our civil rights, we believe in the rights of states and cities to tell the federal government, hey, don't come invade our city. Don't come and unwanted and unwarranted come in with your masked police and try to take our people off the streets, that kind of thing. So, I mean, there are a lot of things we could talk about that Democrats believe in and that Republicans are values, Utah values that the Republicans are betraying right now. But to put it, I mean, to cut to the chase, to answer your question, Jason, if you're going to have a strong MAGA party that is really polarized around Donald Trump, you've got to have a strong counterweight in the form of a strong Democratic Party. And that means people have to come home.
Brian, can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening at the legislature right now? They had a committee meeting this morning at 8. They proposed and voted, not unanimously, but along party lines, to propose a certain map. They're calling it Map C. The special session of the legislature is meeting now. It's almost certain that they're going to pass that. Can you tell us what your thoughts are about the current situation, and take us back a little bit to Prop 4 and whether or not we're really following what the citizens wanted?
Right. Prop 4 was the initiative back in 2018 where people said, listen, we want fair maps. We don't want politicians picking their voters. We, the voters, want to be able to pick the people that represent us. And we set up the Independent Redistricting Commission, which was going to be effective if it had been followed by the legislature in drawing fair maps that weren't gerrymandered, that allowed voters to pick their elected officials. The legislature back in 2001, when they did redistricting, basically took the independent redistricting maps and threw them in the garbage can. And we've seen now the Utah Supreme Court and Judge Gibson, the district court judge, say, hey, legislature, you can't do that. So today, the legislature recommended out of committee Map C, which the Republican Party has made very clear is their preferred map. The Republican Party has taken a very partisan approach to this and encouraged the members of their party to vote, contact their legislators and tell them to vote for Map C. Here's my grievance about that. And this came up last week, and I, told my colleague on the other side of the aisle, the party chair of the Republican Party, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. What we need to do, again, it gets back to this polarization issue. Polarization isn't in anybody's interest. What we really need are fair maps that reflect the will of the people of the state of Utah and reflect good redistricting principles. The Democratic Party has not taken a position on what map should be forwarded. What we have said to the people of the state of Utah is, let your voice be known. Tell your legislator what map you prefer and ask them to pick a map that fairly reflects the principles of redistricting and the will of the people of the state of Utah. I'm sad. I wish that the Republican Party in the state had done the same thing, but they didn't. They came along and said, make sure that you vote. Tell your legislator to vote for Map C because that's the one that helps Republicans the most.
In just a couple of seconds here, Brian. So what's next? If Map C is it that comes out,
well,
what's
I think
next?
they have to take the vote as a body of the House and the Senate later today. I think given the committee vote, I think that's much more likely than not that Map C is going to come out. But we'll see what they vote. And if it is Map C, it goes back to Judge Gibson. She'll have to take a look at whether Map C complies with the principles that she outlined in her ruling in August as to what the legislature needed to do to come up with a map that complied with Prop D, the initiative back in 2018. And she'll either accept Map C or she'll say, no, it doesn't qualify. It doesn't meet the standards that I indicated you have to meet. So we'll see some rulings on this within the next week or two, I'm confident.
Thanks, Brian. That was Brian King, Utah Democratic Party chair. When we come back after the break, a federal judge blocked an order from the Trump administration deploying troops to the city of Portland, and President Trump is not happy. We'll talk about what's next when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour, Utah lawmakers are in a special session today. One of their top items on the agenda is to approve a new congressional district map. The redistricting committee voted this morning to pass along Map C to the full legislature. Our top national story from ABC News, the U.S. Supreme Court begins a new term today. It is the first Monday in October. Justices have a full schedule with several high-profile cases. They include looking at the president's power, racial gerrymandering, transgender individuals in sports, and religious expression. This morning, they also decided not to take up an appeal filed by Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for collaborating with Jeffrey Epstein to groom and sexually abuse underage girls. A Utah resident who died in aerial battle in the South Pacific during World War II is finally returning home to Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has details.
Howard Holding was a musician and college student in Salt Lake before entering the U.S. Navy aviation program in 1942. He was shot down trying to secure Yap Island in 1944, but his body wasn't found for almost a year. The remains were buried in the Manila American Cemetery until DNA testing finally identified who he was.
Holding will be buried at the Salt Lake City Cemetery on October 17th. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 99 points right now. That's 0.2%. We're at 46,661. Coming up, sunny but cool today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill. But those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings Wrangler rode in. Cool as can be. Tap Good RX. Saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check Good RX. Good RX is not insurance.
Okay, I have to tell you. I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
At Common Spirit Health, we know that lifelong health and well-being starts with primary care. So we have doctors and providers who see you, hear you, know you, and understand you. Because understanding you means understanding your needs. And that leads to a deeper knowledge of the prevention, wellness, and treatment options that may be best for you. It's primary care that treats your whole family like family. It's primary care with human kindness. Discover all the ways you can find and connect with a primary care provider at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Shop with any Mountain America credit or debit card for a chance to win a $5,000 vacation voucher. Simply tap, insert, swipe, or click to be entered to win now until October 31st. Use any card, win any trip from Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/anycard for official rules or to apply. Loans on approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility. Insured by NCUA. Limited time offer. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time.
The changing temps and colorful leaves means fall's in the air. Take a mental break, becoming one with your thoughts and nature, starting in Cedar City. Lighten your heart and clear your mind with a short drive to enjoy not one, but 4 scenic highways, connecting you to nothing but an open canvas of color. Vibrant shades of red rocks, amber leaves, clear blue skies, and endless shades of emerald green and cedar breaks in Dixie National Forest. Cedar City is nature's backdrop, where the forest actually does meet the trees. The journey isn't about getting there, it's about being there. Being on a hike, mountain biking, or OHVing, with eyes and jaws wide open to scenic views. Cedar City also harvests the best events. Charming organic farmers markets, promising the best pumpkin patches and hay mazes in the West. Plus the Sheep Parade down Main, October 25th. For the fall color reports, activities, eateries, and more, log on to visitcedarcity.com. That's visitcedarcity.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Earlier police activity still has delays. Northbound I-15 between Center Street in Provo and University Parkway. That is moved over to the right. Prior to that, there is a crash on the right at Center Street in Provo as well. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Mostly sunny, but only 62 for a high today, 67 tomorrow. Right now, it's 50 degrees and sunny. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
President Trump's order to deploy the National Guard to Portland, Oregon was blocked by a federal judge yesterday. Now Chicago, as well as the entire state of Illinois, are suing in hopes to avoid the same threat of troop deployment. Peter Haramboulis from ABC News gives us an overview.
After a judge prohibited Trump's takeover of the Oregon National Guard this weekend, the Trump administration responded by sending troops into Portland from neighboring California. Trump-appointed judge Karen Immergut said in a late-night hearing on Sunday that move violated her earlier court order because Trump failed to justify sending in troops, and she expanded her ruling to prohibit the National Guard from any state from being deployed into the city. Peter Haralambous, ABC News.
And this judge, Karen Immergut, is not just any judge. She's actually a Trump appointee. ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott tells us more.
Judge Karen Immergut, a Trump appointee, issued a new, broader order prohibiting the administration from using federal control to send any state's National Guard into Oregon, and pressing the government's attorney, saying, quote, "You are an officer of the court. Do you believe that this is an appropriate way to deal with my order?"
So I'm looking at the order, Jason. It's a little unusual because it came out yesterday. It came out Sunday. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the judge can issue orders anytime she wants, but it's a very, very short, and she styles it second temporary restraining order. So she had issued a restraining order, I don't know, some time ago. It looks like it doesn't say when it was exactly. And then, it was back in about a month or so ago. The defendants, that is President Trump, Pete Hegseth, and Kristi Noem from Department of Homeland Security, issued an appeal and said, hey, you're staying us. You're stopping us from doing what we have the right to do. The judge says, no, I'm going to block it again. So she issued a second temporary restraining order. And now Chicago's saying, hey, we want in too. We want to do the same thing.
Well, it's so interesting how quickly this is happening. And remember, this comes right after this federal judge in Oregon blocked a similar deployment there in Portland. I think there was a temporary restraining order there.
Right.
So as you were just describing, you talk about what's happening. The reactions are very quick. This is, like you mentioned too, you don't see this happening this quickly. The response, it kind of shows the heightened level of tension that's happening right there between the federal and the state level, particularly when it comes to this issue. An action is taken, a corresponding court action taken almost immediately.
Yeah, and of course it started in California, and they're part of this matter as well. But it's one thing when you deploy federal troops to the District of Columbia, because let's face it, it's not an independent jurisdiction. And so it's overseen by the federal government. But when you start bringing troops to California, to Oregon, and to Illinois, those states go, wait a minute, we've got it covered here. And I mean, I don't know if you've been watching any social media, but the people in Portland, Oregon are posting pictures of big farmers markets and saying, boy, we're really struggling here. And the night out on the town, and it's beautiful, and the nightlife is great. Boy, we really need federal troops here. I mean, Portland, Oregon was probably not the best target for the administration to go after, and especially because there doesn't seem to be a problem. You don't think of Portland, Oregon as crime central USA.
You really don't. The farmers market is probably a perfect example. In fact, I was even looking up, because usually what you have is these predicate conditions.
Right.
What would you need typically? And these are things like rebellion, insurrection, the civil authorities are not able to maintain the peace in some way. And I think that's what they're trying to show is none of these conditions maybe necessarily exist. I think that was the idea coming out of Oregon, and certainly that's what we're talking about in Chicago and Illinois.
Right. We think of the National Guard as being federal troops, and I guess they are, but we've learned now that they're really under the state's auspices, and the state calls them, not necessarily the federal government. So it's been unusual here that Trump is telling California, your National Guard is going to be called to your state, and of course, Gavin Newsom's a different animal altogether. He's like, you're not the boss of me. You don't tell me what I do with my National Guard. But it's now gone into Oregon. It's gone to Illinois. Like I said, it started in D.C., which is different. But I mean, the Trump administration is getting slapped down every time they try this.
Well, they have, and what you just described is what's happening, not just in the examples we have, but having worked with the governors myself, they consider this National Guard as someone. This is a Utah National Guard. This is a group designed to help us.
Right.
And governors, I think, on all sides of the aisle would look at one of these efforts, and they will immediately feel like they have something to say about it. I think that's why you see these governors mobilizing so quickly.
You wonder, Jason, how this is playing in the court of public opinion when the administration comes in on the one hand and says, your city is crime-ridden. It's time we do something about it, and we're going to take a giant step. We're going to deploy federal troops, and the city's saying, or the state, or both, is saying, we've got this. Crime is bad, but we're dealing with it, and so. On the one hand, I think some citizens would go, well, hey, if things are really bad in Chicago or D.C., maybe we should do something. On the other hand, you look at Los Angeles, Portland, even Chicago and D.C., and say, well, they're getting better. I mean, these are cities whose crime rates are actually going down. So the timing of it's not great, but maybe the citizens feel like, hey, maybe we should send somebody in and do something about the crime problem. I don't know that we're getting that.
Well, I wonder, because mostly what's happening right now is we're talking about it through a political lens,
right? Unfortunately,
so that's kind of just the world we live in right now, which is interesting. And I have talked to people in Washington D.C. that have told me with the Guard there, and I've been there recently. I know you get there a lot, Greg, too. But I was there recently, and you did see members of the Guard on corners. And I asked people who live there, and some would say, "Wow, I've seen. I'm walking around at night when I didn't used to walk around at night." Of course, the others are saying that's exactly what they didn't want to see. So you're looking at your appropriate comments, I think, about crime, but we start talking about it through a political lens. It changes the whole analysis.
And you look at these National Guardsmen and women who have served their country, want to serve their country, but never expect to be deployed to their own city or to a city. You know what I mean? To a U.S. city to do something like that. That wasn't in there. I mean, if you're setting up sandbags or getting something done, or helping the engineer some bridge or something, that's one thing. But policing your own. I wonder how these men and women feel doing that. I mean, that's not something they sign up for.
Well, it certainly isn't. I think after all of this is done, we see what happens with these court cases. We're going to start getting a little commentary from people, not just who are keeping us safe, but also that are saying whether or not they're being mobilized for the appropriate reasons or not. Because you're exactly right. We've seen natural disasters in the state of Utah, and we see our National Guard step in and do an amazing job. This is a whole different ask.
So the state of Oregon and the city of Portland and the state of California have been granted a temporary restraining order restraining the federal government from deploying troops in those regions. The state of Illinois and the city of Chicago are saying, hey, we want in on this. They're going to file their own lawsuits here shortly, and they've got a template. I mean, that always makes your job a little easy as an attorney when somebody's already done the work for you and you have a. But of course, federal judges from one state don't necessarily bind another. We've seen that.
Yeah, that's right.
And they'll look at this on a state by state basis. Ultimately, it's either going to be some sort of. Well, I don't see this as going to a class action, but ultimately, I think the Supreme Court or the appeals courts are going to have to weigh in on this and decide whether or not and to what extent the federal government can deploy troops.
Yeah, I think that's the heart of the question, and what goes along with that, certainly a point, is at what point do you have an appropriate and legitimate federal response, and when does it become political?
Yeah, and when does it get to the United States Supreme Court, which, by the way, is entering their October session, and they're slated to face some serious decisions. SCOTUS. I always want to say SCOTUS. SCOTUS blogs, Kelsey Dallas will join us to talk about what's on the docket. That's coming up next, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
We honor President Russell M. Nelson.
Can family life endure beyond this period of mortal probation? Yes.
Next Tuesday, KSL will broadcast the memorial and final tributes to President Nelson from noon until 2.
My dear brothers and sisters,
remembering President Russell M. Nelson.
The best is yet to come.
Starting Tuesday at noon on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, I had the chance to see a brand new play at Hale Center Theater, and it's the musical comedy Murders of 1940. And I'm just going to read what I wrote to Sally Dietlein right after I got out to my truck. I just had to let her know how much I enjoyed it, and I said, a black and white screwball film noir comedy complete with Nazis you have outdone yourself. This is so unique. The entire play, save only one character, is in black and white. Sally wrote back and said, yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever done, and she used this term, grayscape. It is so unique. You are going to love it. And then just down the hall, Sister Act is showing, and all kinds of wonderful performances still to come, like Frozen. We've already got our tickets for our grandkids. Go to hct.org or get your tickets at the box office. And don't forget, get your 2026 season tickets.
You need a deck. You want a pool. We have a plan. If you're looking to start a home improvement project, a discounted home equity line of credit from Zions Bank is an easy, affordable way to turn your home's equity into opportunity. Stop by your local branch to get started or visit zionsbank.com/HELOC to learn more. Loan subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. See banker for details. A division of Zions Bank Corporation, N.A. member FDIC, equal housing lender. NMLS number 467014.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
Hi, it's me, Flo, here to tell you that with a Progressive Home and Auto Bundle, you get 24/7 protection, so you're covered no matter where the day takes you.
Even bad hair day?
Yep.
And tree branch fell on my car day?
Especially that day. Progressive has you covered 24/7 for your home and auto.
How about thought it was chicken, but it was tuna day? Or overnight construction outside my bedroom day?
Those days too.
Great, because that was each day this week.
Been there. Well, at least your home and auto are covered every day with Progressive.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states.
This March, Wendy's is fueling the madness with amazing deals on their hamburgers made with fresh, never frozen beef.
Like a juicy Dave's single for $1 and a fresh $2 Dave's double with in-app offer.
It's such a good deal, we wrote a little ditty about it.
Get it for $1. Dave's single, order in the app. Dave's single, get it for $1. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's, official hamburger March Madness.
Limited time offer. Participating U.S. Wendy's. See offer details and redeem at Wendy's app. Account registration required. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S. and Alaska.
Temperatures might be cooling down, but fall camping's just warming up. And so is the country's largest used RV show. That's right. We're back in Utah just in time to outfit you for even more fall fun. October 9th through the 11th, we're packing the parking lot at the shops at Southtown with a huge selection of used RVs to fit any budget. Shop travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haul haulers, motorhomes, and more all in one lot. We're talking RVs starting as low as $7,995. No payments until 2026 on approved credit. You'll also find new RVs at the show at used pricing, like all remaining new 2024s, and select 2025s marked down for fall discounts. Plus, get hooked up with specially priced hunting trailers just in time for hunting season. Get more details and find the best deals early at UtahUsedRVShow.com. All this plus free admission to the country's largest used RV show. 3 days only, October 9th through the 11th at the Shops at Southtown. Open daily at 11 a.m. Sponsored by Bish's RV. See you there.
Stock number 759418. Subject to prior sale. See dealer for details.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Well, as the Supreme Court enters its October session, we're already seeing some important decisions being made and some slated to be made soon. ABC's Kevin Dwyer says that they've already handed down a decision denying the appeal of convicted sex offender and partner of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell.
She had asked the justices to look at her conviction, her prosecution. She alleged that a non-prosecution agreement made with Jeffrey Epstein before his death should have applied to her, that she shouldn't have been prosecuted as well. But the justices declined to take up her appeal. They did not explain themselves, but a statement from Maxwell's attorney tells us that they are disappointed in the Supreme Court's decision, but they are going to be looking for other avenues to ensure, in their words, justice is done.
The justices are also slated to look at things like the extent of presidential power.
The court will decide whether Trump can fire members of independent federal agencies for any reason, despite 90 years of precedent saying he can't, and whether that authority extends to the Federal Reserve after Trump took unprecedented steps to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook.
And decisions are also expected around culturally controversial subjects like trans athletes.
With the nation sharply divided, the justices will again wade into the culture wars, deciding this term whether states can ban transgender athletes from school sports and whether state bans on so-called conversion therapy for LGBTQ teens violates a counselor's free speech.
We have with us on the line this morning SCOTUS blog managing editor Kelsey Dallas. And Kelsey, we haven't talked about the big one yet, which I think is the one everybody's waiting to hear about, and that is this idea of looking and changing birthright citizenship. Is that on the docket as well?
Not yet. The Trump administration has asked the court to review the case, and most court watchers expect the justice to agree to that review. But that has not officially been conferenced yet, and oral arguments, should the case be taken up, likely wouldn't be until February or March. Okay, so what are some of the cases that we're really looking at closely? Because that's one that I thought was at the top of the list. Yes, definitely fair to say that if and when the court takes it up, birthright citizenship will be one of the blockbuster decisions of the 2025-26 term. Other top issues just this month are about Colorado's ban on, quote, conversion therapy, a type of counseling that addresses patients' gender identity or sexual orientation. And then also the court is hearing more arguments on the issue of congressional redistricting in Louisiana and could potentially adjust the application of the Voting Rights Act. And that has consequences for states across the country that are engaged in redistricting right now.
I'm so curious, as you look at this sort of the suite of cases and some of the issues that are at the heart of several of them, I'm kind of curious what you're seeing when the court has been increasingly being given questions about expanding presidential authority when it comes to the executive branch. I'm kind of curious how you see that issue playing out in some of these particular cases, because it seems like several of them are connected to these issues surrounding presidential authority.
Absolutely. I would say that has emerged as the theme of the term ahead is the scope of executive power. As listeners maybe already heard, there are a couple of cases set for argument, one about Trump's ability to remove a commissioner on the Federal Trade Commission, and another on Trump's attempt to fire Lisa Cook, a Federal Reserve governor. Both of those cases are sort of looking at the president's ability to fire someone, remove someone from an independent agency. There's the potential that the court will overturn a decision that's nearly 100 years old about when, under what circumstances, the president can make a move like that. But, of course, executive power is not the only issue in front of the court. I actually am very intrigued to see what this term will mean for the Second Amendment, for gun rights. The court just took up a case on Friday out of Hawaii that has to do with limitations on concealed carry permit. And it could also end up taking a case about whether folks who are believed to be habitual drug users are allowed to carry a weapon.
Oh, wow. Whether or not that person could be restricted under the restricted in light of the Second Amendment from carrying a gun by being a habitual criminal offender. Can you tell us where we are? You mentioned Colorado's redistricting. Are there Colorado's ban on conversion therapy. Are there other states where that issue has come up and that are sort of conversing at the Supreme Court?
I believe that there are multiple states that have very similar bans in place. The case in front of the justices will just deal with the language and applications of Colorado's law. But as is the case whenever they consider one of these policies that has appeared in multiple forms across the country, the court's ruling will likely hold ramifications for every state that has that type of policy in place. What's at issue on this Colorado ban is whether the attempt to interfere with conversion therapy is a restriction on the conduct of counselors, so sort of a straightforward regulation on this medical treatment, or if it's a restriction on free speech, on the ability of counselors to speak with their clients about issues like gender identity and sexual orientation. And if it's thought to be a restriction on speech, then the government in Colorado will have to jump through a higher bar to say, like, yes, we are allowed to make restrictions on this type of conversation.
Well, Kelsey, these are some very substantial cases that are going to have some significant impact. I'm kind of curious, as someone who watches this just so closely, I guess as reading the tea leaves just a little bit too, but what are some of the dynamics that you see right now between the justices? Are there some visible alliances on any of these particular cases you just mentioned? Are there some splits that we might see?
Well, I think we all typically look at the court in this breakdown of Republican appointed versus Democrat appointed, and that would be 6-3 with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson being thought of as the liberals. And I always just remind people that it's actually very few cases that turn out along that ideological line because there's always these unexpected coalitions that emerge depending on what issue is in front of the court. And the other note is that there are a surprising number of cases that turn out unanimously because the court has looked at the language of a particular statute or an application question and said, wow, we all actually agree on this. So you might automatically go to ideology, liberal versus conservative, but I'll just remind folks that that's usually not the line that turns out to dominate these decisions. We're more often dealing in the realm of unanimous decisions or 8-1 or 7-2.
Kelsey, our own legislature convened today in special session to deal with a redistricting question that came up, and without getting into the weeds too much, it dealt with a ballot initiative and the legislature's attempt to change that and whether or not the citizens or the legislature makes that decision. What can we expect from the Supreme Court in this session as it relates to redistricting questions?
Yeah, their case, Louisiana v. Kelly, is squarely on a question about race with redistricting. So the question was whether it was appropriate for the Louisiana legislature to create a new congressional map that was intentionally creating a second black majority district, and if that is the appropriate application of the Voting Rights Act. So it could hold ramifications for redistricting, but it shouldn't affect the process that Utah is going through because that wasn't race specific.
No, it was an entirely different question. That was very helpful. That was SCOTUS blog managing editor Kelsey Dallas joining us this morning. Thanks for being with us. It is going to be an interesting session, Jason. You know, and I do think birthright citizenship is going to come up. I mean, she answered that really well, but I think everybody thinks that's the big elephant in the back of the room when the Supremes meet, that eventually they have to address that. Because if you recall, we've had these kind of universal orders or universal decisions that judges have entered saying, well, I'm the judge in Oregon, I'm going to find this, I'm the judge in Illinois, I'm going to find that, and the Supreme Court saying, you know, we need to have you can't just enter these universal orders.
Well, that is such a brilliant observation. It's exactly what's happening. You start piling out these interim orders,
right?
And who can give them, and to what kind of impact does it have outside the state? And so finally, I have some of the full merits of the case,
right?
Which I'm looking for. Those kinds of decisions.
And someday that's got to come. Maybe this session. When we come back after the break, Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evenson joins us to discuss how one country is working to bring rivals of different political parties together. We could learn something from this. Stay with us.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: the heavy rain over the weekend was a great start to the water totals for October, but most of the state is still in drought. National Weather Service senior meteorologist Monica Traphagen says we need continued fall storms, and the biggest factor will be how much snow we get.
The major driver of drought in our water supply comes from our winter snowpack.
Right now, about 76% of Utah is in severe drought, and just over 15% is in extreme drought. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: we are now in day 6 of the federal government shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson says from his perspective, there is no room for negotiation.
We passed our bill. We did the job to keep the government open, and now it's on the Senate Democrats.
Democrats are pushing for health care subsidies before they'll agree to pass the funding bill. The BYU Cougars moved up in the AP Top 25 poll after Friday night's win against West Virginia. The Cougars jumped 5 spots and now sit at number 18. Quarterback Bear Bachmeier had his best passing game of the season against the Mountaineers with 351 yards. He did turn the ball over for the first time this season. The Cougars now head to Arizona to face the Wildcats on Saturday. The game kicks at 6 with pregame here at 4 on KSL News Radio. Your money at this moment: the Dow is off 112 right now. That's 0.25%. We're at 46,645. Coming up, sunny but cool today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Many Medicare health insurance plans are cutting back on benefits, reducing coverage areas, or increasing costs. The Medicare annual election period begins October 15th. Legacy Insurance provides local agents you can count on to help you get the most of your Medicare benefits and to be there for you over the years. Call 801-281-0066, 801-281-0066, and ask for a real agent. Currently, Legacy Insurance represents 58 organizations, which offer 93 products in your area. You can always contact Medicare.gov, 1-800-MEDICARE, or your local state health insurance program for help with plan choices. There are significant changes to Medicare plans this year. Learn more or request help from a caring and local professional by visiting them online at BecauseWeProtectYou.com. That's BecauseWeProtectYou.com.
Buy more, save more at Scandinavian Designs Furniture. For a limited time, save $200 instantly for every $800 you spend in store. It's the perfect way to complete your look for less. Or splurge on your dream piece, from living room to bedroom. Stop by your local showroom today or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com. Buy more, save more at Scandinavian Designs Furniture.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact.
I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. And back to you, Michelle.
I-15 corridor running at good speeds. We do still have crews, though, working on this crash. Northbound I-15 at Center Street in Provo, off to the right. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
62 for a high today, 67 tomorrow. We warm up to 74 Wednesday, 80 on Thursday before a storm moves in Friday and Saturday. Right now it's 52 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Can political rivals find common ground? That's the question we're diving into today with the help of Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evenson. My co-host today, Jason Perry, Vice President of the Government Relations at the University. Jason, why do you have to have this long title?
I don't know.
You're just the Hinckley Institute of Politics guy.
That's right.
And one
That's
of my heroes. We're lucky to have with us in studio Jay Evenson. Jay, thanks for joining us, and tell us about your recent trip to New York.
Listen, I'm so excited about what's happening in Bangladesh, and of all the things that are happening in the world, very few of them are as interesting, I think, as what's happening there, and yet it gets so very little attention. So I went back there earlier this year, and it ended up in a 5-part series on Muhammad Yunus, who is the interim prime minister. They don't call him that. He's the interim leader in Bangladesh. They overthrew a dictator a year ago in July, Sheikh Hasina, and put Muhammad Yunus in charge. He's a Nobel laureate. He made his fame through something called microcredit, in which he helps the very poorest of poor people try to make it in life. He came last week to the United Nations to speak at the General Assembly, and as part of that, he had a private reception, and I was invited to that, so I went and was able to meet with him a little bit and talk to him there. The really interesting thing to me is he shows up in New York City with the leaders of 3 rival parties in Bangladesh. And you have to understand, Bangladesh has a long history of really nasty politics, and kind of like where we're headed in this country, I think, but we're not quite there yet, although we've had a number of assassinations and problems here that kind of rival what they're doing. But he said, look, these are people who normally don't get along. I invited them to come along because when you're here in New York, they have no choice but to talk to each other. Very few other people speak their language in New York. And what's interesting is you watch the film of him speaking at the United Nations, and they'll cut away to the row that has Bangladesh people, and here are these rival party members all sitting together. They're leaning over and whispering to each other. They're chuckling. And I thought, wow, what an incredible example of how to bring rival people together. Can't we do something like that here in the United States?
So you talked about the former, I think you said, dictator Sheikh Hasina.
Yes.
Was one of the people in the group from his political party?
No, it was her. It's a woman.
I'm sorry.
Her party was the Awami League, and that has been outlawed now in Bangladesh. She sought exile in India, and there are a lot of people that are accusing her of fomenting problems from exile in India. And when Muhammad Yunus arrived at JFK Airport a couple of weeks ago, there were people there pelting his entourage with eggs and they assumed that was the Awami League. They were also outside the hotel picketing. So were not part of this friendship or new association of party leaders.
I'm so curious, when you think about sort of the qualities of the Bangladeshi leader, the things that are unifying a very diverse population, as you just said. What are some of those key qualities you see that are sort of happening, and maybe given a context of the time, some of those qualities that seem to be evolving, that are very effective in bringing people together who normally have not been?
So you have to understand, for about 15 years, the people have had no civil rights as we perceive them in the United States. So there was no dissent, there was no protest, there was no right to assemble, that type of thing. And she had actually been after Muhammad Yunus, trying to arrest him. She was accusing him of all kinds of things, including sabotaging the World Bank funding a new bridge in Bangladesh. She was just on the verge of actually putting him in prison when this revolution started. He has imposed a lot of freedoms that we enjoy here. Now, you can protest, you can say what you want in the media or anywhere else. And he put together what he calls the July Charter, July being the month of the revolution, where he said, okay, here are principles, a bunch of principles that I think are important. Let's get all the political parties together and have you all sign off on which ones of these principles you can support and think are okay. And then we can hold you accountable to those, because I'm not going to be in power anymore, and I'm turning it over. We're going to have an election in February, and I'm turning it over to whichever party wins the election. I want you to continue on these freedoms that I've imposed.
Can I ask really quickly, if you don't mind, Greg, in this? Yeah. It's so great to have the ultimate newsman here, Jay Evenson, who I just love his insights so much. But I mean, I really have to say, you start looking at these ideas of sort of unity and political collaboration that you've just described. I'm just wondering, are there some things that translate well to what we might be seeing here?
I hope so.
Okay.
And that's
Did you see that one coming, Jay?
Yes, and I appreciate that, because that's kind of where I was going with the column, which will be published, I hope, sometime this week. We need something like this in the United States, but we need a leader who's able to bring parties together and say, look, here's what we can agree on. Now, why not come up with a charter in the United States that doesn't impose anything new, but says, look, we are recommitting to these constitutional principles: free speech, freedom of religion, right to assemble, etc. And let's pass this through the nation, and everybody sign off. Everyone who believes in these principles, let's sign off and recommit to these. I think that would be a great idea, and that's mirroring kind of what he's doing there. Who do we have who has the clout and the ability to bring parties together and to get the American people to sign off on principles that I think we're starting to forget about, or they're starting to weaken in our country?
This Muhammad Yunus, Jay, sounds a little to me like almost like a Nelson Mandela kind of.
Yeah.
The status quo is no more. Let's make a change and then maybe hand it off to the next generation or the next group that can run with it.
Yeah, and Nelson Mandela's great secret was to be able to bring rival people together who had not only been enemies, I mean, they'd been killing each other. And he brought together the widows of both sides for a luncheon. That was one of the first things that he did. And then he started his Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. And Muhammad Yunus hasn't done a similar thing. Now, he's only been in power for a little over a year, and he's giving up power in February. He's 85 years old. He doesn't want to be in control of a country. But it's up to the next generation of leaders, the next party that takes over, to carry on these principles. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Nobody does. But if it does, what a wonderful story that would be for this little country in South Asia that's been just riven by political violence for so many years.
I'm always curious as to the role that the media, social media, etc., plays in efforts for collaboration. Certainly is great for division, oftentimes. I'm curious, as you see this unfolding, where those parties are. Are they helping?
I don't think they're helping a whole lot, and that's what made this trip to New York and bringing these three leaders together so important. I'm very anxious to see what comes of that and how how we proceed in Bangladesh from that point. But there's a whole lot of pressure there for them to be against each other, and you've got an election coming up. It may not work, and I think they have a lot of the same problems there that we have here. Probably we have more of it here because their per capita income is so low. I'm not sure how engaged people are on social media in Bangladesh.
Jay, we've only got about a minute left, but tell us about your article. We're sort of thinking it would be written. We'd see it today, but when's it coming out, and what can we expect?
It's written mostly. I mean, you never know what an editor's going to do to it, but hopefully it comes out this week. I'm kind of thinking of it as the 6th part of my series, which was written back in March and April.
Well, if you're the editor, who oversees your work?
Oh, there's always somebody.
There's always somebody.
No one dares say anything to Jay.
No, they better.
Don't you ever go in and say, "Hey, I'm Jay Evenson"?
No, listen, that would be the worst thing because everybody needs an editor, and you don't want to appear foolish or make some stupid mistake.
There you go.
I'm very happy for editors.
See, he's even unifying in the editing.
That's Jay. That's it. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Next time you're at the airport and your computer or your laptop or your phone is low on power, be careful before you plug into a public USB port. KSL investigative reporter Matt Gephardt says you may be putting your data at risk. He'll tell us how to stay safe next. That's coming up next, streaming live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit kslnewsradio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Jump on your brooms and fly to Logan for fantastic fall festivities. It's finally cooling off and we're so glad. Grab your flannel and celebrate harvest season in style, especially October 10th and 11th. Step back in time at the American West Heritage Center for their annual Fall Harvest Festival. See grain threshing with antique machinery, take a pony ride or train ride, and see cider pressing and corn shelling. Or check out the Rock and Gem Show with minerals and rocks and fossils. Oh my! Catch a live performance of the hilarious Broadway hit The Addams Family. Watch it inside the 1923 Ellen Eccles Theater, which really is haunted. Dive into a month full of hocus pocus and hair-raising hauntings on the historic downtown Logan Ghost Tour or at the Haunted River Trail. Traipse through 2 giant corn mazes, visit the North Logan Pumpkin Walk, or check out live theater and music performances and USU football games. Fall in love with fall in Logan. ExploreLogan.com/fall. ExploreLogan.com/fall.
This week's movie show brought to you by My Hearing Centers. Schedule a hearing evaluation and be entered to win a set of premium hearing aids by tuning in Friday from 10 to 1.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Brad's day is off to a slow start. So he heads to AutoZone, where batteries are as low as $89.99. Sammy, a local AutoZoner, tests his battery for free. Looks like he just needs a charge. And Sammy does that for free too. In no time at all, Brad is back on the road, ready to finish the day strong. Free battery testing and charging at every store. No hassles, just help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm alongside Jason Perry. Jason, on Friday, right after this show, I'm getting on an airplane to go visit my daughter in Maine. And every time I go to the airport, because I like to make sure that my phone and my laptop are happy, I plug into those little USB ports thinking I'm safe, I'm covered, and I can get the internet and do what I need to do and continue to work.
Yeah.
That's not,
I think after this next story,
I'm going to be doing things differently.
You need to be thinking about where you're plugging your computers these days. So you're sitting in that chair at the airport. You say, "What could go wrong?"
Yeah,
what
could
plug
go
into
wrong?
this thing?
Well, we've got KSL investigative reporter Matt Gephardt to tell us what could go wrong.
Good morning. Yeah, well, a warning from the TSA saying specifically with those USB ports, don't plug in your phones because it's kind of like the way skimming, if you remember skimming with gas station pumps where bad guys would come along and put these little devices on the credit card reader and you swipe your card and then they'd steal your information. Bad guys have figured out how to essentially put chips into these USB ports that you see everywhere. And then when you plug your phone in, it can read your phone.
So this is coming from TSA?
This latest warning came from TSA. There have been warnings out now for some time, a couple of years now, but the latest one that just came out from TSA about a month ago, and it said don't do it, don't plug in. The good news is the solution is bring a brick with you, right? So like those AC, the 2 or 3 with a ground plugs, as long as you have the brick that you actually plug the USB cord into, that acts as a barrier enough that you're going to be able to get your juice without getting a problem. But the actual USB ports that you see at coffee shops around town and at airports and what have you, train stations, they say you should not plug your phone directly into those.
So oftentimes when you're doing this like on your own computer, sometimes you will get like a little pop-up that says trust this computer, and you say okay, you can make your judgment call. You don't see that anymore. They can do this just by plugging your USB straight into these boxes or whatever they are.
No, I would say the good news is it's kind of like when you plug into your computer and then you get a warning on your phone saying, hey, watch out. You will still get a warning on your phone, right? So basically what you're doing is when you have a bad one, you are plugging into, instead of a power outlet, you're plugging into a computer. So if you've got Android, Google, if you've got Apple, and you have the latest security software, you will still get a warning on your phone before this thing has access to be able to read or write to your phone. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, if you go to charge your cell phone in the side of your laptop, it'll say, do you want to allow it to read it? I, as a video reporter, will often shoot video on my phone, and that's how I transfer video off of my phone, right? I plug the little cord in and I say, yes, give it access. So you will still get a warning on your phone, which really is your biggest sign that you are about to give access over to maybe somebody you don't want to. If it says, do you want to be able to read this? No, don't let them read your phone.
So Matt, I guess the dummy in me wonders this. Okay, if TSA is saying that don't plug into these USB ports, and the airports have USB ports, is there some movement to getting rid of them? Or is this like, hey, this is America, you have a right to plug into anything you want?
You can plug in. You can plug in, and when you get to the other side of security, it's going to be harder for a bad guy to get in there and do their dirty deeds than it would be, say, out in the what do you call it, the foyer area, the pre-TSA point. But no, to my knowledge, there isn't. In fact, if anything, I am seeing them pop up more and more and more and more. It's just the kind of thing that you should be aware of. If you are going to plug into these things, make sure you're not giving access. And the TSA says straight up, do not plug in. They recommend that you just don't.
What can they access? Is this like your whole phone? Or they are trying to install malware? What are they trying to do?
Yes and yes. So think about the things that you have on your phone, right? You've got your banking apps there. You've got your banking apps is a big one. Basically, all these things that have access to your credit card information, and some of them are more secure than others, right? Your actual bank may have a lot of security things in place that by simply accessing, you'd still have to go through passwords and stuff. But what about some of the places where maybe you have your credit card stored? Some of the like restaurants with whom you do business, maybe your e-commerce websites, and so they can they can access and they can look around. They can send messages on your behalf in some cases, so they can access your contacts. That's actually very easy for a hacker to do. I've done stories where they've demonstrated that for me, where they can get in and they can see my contacts, and then they could text Greg and say, "Hey, Greg, it's Matt. You mind wiring me $300? I'm in a jam here.
I need a gift card right away."
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So I'm a lot older than you two, and so when you say brick, I and this is radio, so I'm going to hold something up. But I have my phone's plugged into the wall.
Yeah.
With the 2-prong 110 outlet.
Yeah.
But after that is some black box that has two. Is that a brick?
No, what I'm talking about is basically brick or block. When you go
like a block,
like the AC adapter thing, right? So
the AC adapter, the thing that it has, the two. The AC prongs, the two prongs, and then
usually.
So it'd be the difference between, and then you have your USB cord that you actually plug into that, which allows it to go into a wall outlet. With a USB one, you take that. You've seen these on airplanes,
yes,
probably,
of
right?
course,
Where you don't necessarily have access to the two prong, but you can unplug the thing and the USB thing, and you can plug the USB thing in directly. That's what we're talking about. Having that power adapter, the thing that turns it from AC into go down your USB cord, that is enough to stop any sort of skimming.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can I ask? It's related to this also. So there's this new way of trying to get access to your phone through these QR codes. I know I'm at the University of Utah. They're all over the place. Everyone's got the poster. They say, "Come to this, whatever it is, scan the QR code." You do it, and maybe that's legit. But not necessarily, right? Can you talk about that? Because that seems to be a related fear.
Yeah, concern. I mean, it is. And it all has to do with the modern way of getting by. And so QR codes, generally speaking, what they do is take you to websites. And websites can be good. And sometimes they take you to websites, and sometimes they take you to apps. And websites can be good, and apps can be good. And websites can be bad, and apps can be bad. And if one of the places that we saw this a ton was during the pandemic, when all of a sudden restaurants went through this evolution of nobody wants to touch menus anymore for fear of disease being on the menu. And so everyone started using their QR codes. These QR codes, menus. Well, bad guys would go around and slap QR codes down on tables, and people would think they were opening up a menu, and they'd maybe go to a website that was downloading malware, spyware onto their phone, or maybe they were being taken to a website where they were offered the opportunity to check out, and they put their credit card information in, and it wasn't actually going to the real company; it was going to the bad guy. We saw this. We've seen this a lot with parking meters, right? If you try to park in downtown Salt Lake, you can now, no longer do they have places where you can put quarters. You have to use your phone, and you have to scan an app, and it opens the parking thing. Well, bad guys have been known to go around and put these bogus QR codes on parking meters, and then it takes you, rather than to the official website, it takes you to their website. You go to pay your parking fee, bada boom, bada bing. You think you paid your meter. You go to lunch. You come back and you have a ticket, and your credit card's been drained.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
I think I'll scan this
Yay,
thing.
technology.
So I mean, what's the story? I mean, what's the message? I mean, how do you avoid that? I guess is the easier.
So
question.
the short answer is be very wary. The trick is really to just kind of be on your guard. I say cynically, with something like parking meters, for example. The solution that was offered by Salt Lake Parking Enforcement was, the scanning thing should take you to our app. If it doesn't take you to our app, then you've got a bad one. And by the way, you can also download that app directly through your Apple Store or your Google Play Store or whatever. You can download the apps directly. And so that's sort of the thing you run into there, is that anytime you are faced with anything where you're entering a credit card number, just to be really sure of because they know how to spoof them, they know how to make them look really legitimate, and so you just want to make sure that when you're actually looking at, this is especially a problem on cell phones, actually looking at the URL and seeing that you are truly on for example, wellsfargo.com, as opposed to some random website that is made to look like it's Wells Fargo, but instead you're entering your banking information into a bad guy's.
Yeah. You just got to watch so close, you know. As the kids would say, if it starts to look a little sus, don't enter your information, right?
Yeah, but even sus is not a true. I did a story once. I brought up Wells Fargo here because many years ago I did a story where they had a bogus. Somebody was spoofing them, right? Somebody was pretending to be Wells Fargo. You had the real Wells Fargo, and then you had somebody who was trying to get you to go on and enter Wells Fargo customers to go in and enter their bad information. And I actually took it and sat down with a PR guy from Wells Fargo with cameras rolling and said, which one's you and which one's the bad one? And he couldn't tell.
Oh my!
So you even looking at it and if it looks sus. You know, part of the trick here is they're very good at making it not look sus, as the kids would say.
Matt, thanks for joining us this morning, and thanks for what you do. I mean, really, I read what you do, and your old man. You guys just do so much for the community and so much for just to make us safe. And this week, I'm gonna go get one of them bricks. I think I've got one around the house.
I'll show you what that is before we go.
I'm gonna brick it.
Great job.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
When we come back, as we enter day 5 of the government shutdown, worries are growing about just how long this may last. Cami Mundo from the Deseret News is on the ground in Washington, D.C., and she's going to give us some insight next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio, and remember, you can stream us live on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. A West Valley man was arrested after a car crash because police say he pulled a gun on the other driver and demanded he Venmo him hundreds of dollars. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
This starts with a car crash, and one driver offers Julio Beltran $500 in cash instead of filing a police report. Beltran says, all right, and offers the guy a ride home. But on the way home, the first driver's Venmo would only let him send $250. Court documents say that's when Beltran pulled out a gun, pointed it at the other guy, and demanded he pay him an extra $500 the next day, or he and his family would suffer. Well, police tracked down Beltran at his West Valley home. He was booked for robbery, extortion, and making a threat of violence. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Hundreds of hikers on Mount Everest had to be rescued after a rare off-season blizzard engulfed the area, and rescue operations are far from over.
Usually this time of year around Everest, it's relatively calm and clear, but for these guys, you know, this unexpected blizzard happened, trapping hundreds of them. 350 have been rescued, 200 still trapped, but authorities have made contact, so we do know that there is an effort underway.
ABC's Britt Clennett reporting. Your money at this moment, a little bit of a mixed market. The Dow is off 124 points, but the S&P has gained 23 points, and the NASDAQ is up 157 points. Coming up, crisp fall temperatures are here. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Maria Chaleos, and I am here with Blair. He's also a client of Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
So great to see you. So how much weight have you lost?
I've lost an amazing 52 pounds in just 60 days.
That's incredible. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel great. I have more energy, and the GERD and acid reflux is gone.
Talk about the scale for a minute. Were you surprised at how quickly the number went down?
It was astonishing to me as I'd get on the scale, even in the very beginning when I saw, 2-3 pounds drop off. But I ended up looking forward to getting on the scale to see how much I'd lost in the last day.
Tell me about the biggest benefits you've seen from Salt Lake City Fat Loss.
I have much more confidence in myself, lots more energy, much more adventurous walks with my dogs.
Thanks so much for sharing another great success story with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Learn the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day online at slcfatloss.com. slcfatloss.com.
Results may vary. Temperatures might be cooling down, but fall camping's just warming up, and so is the country's largest used RV show.
That's right. We're back in Utah just in time to outfit you for even more fall fun. October 9th through the 11th, we're packing the parking lot at the Shops at Southtown with a huge selection of used RVs to fit any budget. Shop travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, motorhomes, and more, all in one lot. We're talking RVs starting as low as $7,995. No payments until 2026 on approved credit. You'll also find new RVs at the show at used pricing, like all remaining new 2024s, and select 2025s marked down for fall discounts. Plus, get hooked up with specially priced hunting trailers just in time for hunting season. Get more details and find the best deals early at UtahUsedRVShow.com. All this plus free admission to the country's largest used RV show. 3 days only, October 9th through the 11th at the Shops at Southtown. Open daily at 11 a.m. Sponsored by Bish's RV. See you there. Stock number 759418. Subject to prior sale. See dealer for details.
Many Medicare health insurance plans are cutting back on benefits, reducing coverage areas, or increasing costs. The Medicare annual election period begins October 15th. Legacy Insurance provides local agents you can count on to help you get the most of your Medicare benefits and to be there for you over the years. Call 801-281-0066, 801-281-0066, and ask for a real agent. Currently, Legacy Insurance represents 58 organizations, which offer 93 products in your area. You can always contact Medicare.gov, 1-800-MEDICARE, or your local state health insurance program for help with plan choices. There are significant changes to Medicare plans this year. Learn more or request help from a caring and local professional by visiting them online at BecauseWeProtectYou.com. That's BecauseWeProtectYou.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn every spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Michelle Rowe.
I-15 corridor still running at posted speeds. They're still working on this crash, though. Northbound I-15 off to the right at Center Street in Provo. Sweeten your fall at the Clark Historic Farm Honey Harvest Festival in Grantsville, October 10th and 11th. Honey tasting craft vendors. Visit clarkhistoricfarm.org. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny skies, but cool with a high of just 67 degrees today and similar tomorrow. But by Thursday, it'll warm back up, getting to 80. Right now, it's 52 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Filling in for Holly today is my good friend Jason Perry. And Jason, do you remember my wife, Rebecca?
Of course.
So she works for the federal government. She works for the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which means, A, she's working today, and B, she's not getting paid. This is not a good thing. This is not a good thing at the Skordas house.
It's nice to be essential.
Right.
So she has that going for her.
Employee. My son's a doc in the Air Force. Same thing. They're not getting paid, working hard. Of course, there's probably some light at the end of the tunnel, but maybe not. This is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who said there isn't much hope.
There's nothing for us to negotiate. The House has done its job.
Ouch. So they had a vote. I think it was the fourth vote on Friday. Right. And the number trickled up. I think the number of senators that they need. We're talking about the government shutdown, which the continuing resolution needs to pass by 60 members of the Senate in order for us to get that, which would put us into at least November, give everybody some time to regroup. There are 53 Republicans, so they need 7 Democrats. I think they had 2, maybe
they got
3.
They ended up getting 3 Democrats.
So we're a little closer. I don't know whether they're scheduling other votes or where we are. There doesn't seem to be much going on right now. We're looking at the TV screens. There doesn't seem anything going on. But we do have Cami Mondo with us, political reporter for the Deseret News. Cami, help us. Is there any end in sight?
You know, it's seeming like as every day this keeps going on, it feels like we're farther and farther away from a conclusion. But of course, you know, that could change at any moment. But as of right now, we're stuck in the same place we were just last week.
So the Republicans, or maybe, I don't know who it was, sort of dared the Democrats and had a vote. Is there another vote scheduled, do we know?
Yes, so the Senate will be voting again tonight, again on that Democratic CR and the Republican CR, which are those dueling spending resolutions that we've seen go on the floor 4 times. This will be the 5th time, and we expect those to fail once again when they come up tonight.
Now, okay, at the heart of some of this, there are lots of other things, but one of the key things had to do with these tax credits for health care, which is interesting because we had a government shutdown, I think, somewhere around 2013 for almost the same issue when it came to the Affordable Care Act. But this is one of those items right there the Democrats were really holding on to, wanting to extend, make permanent those tax credits. Are conversations ongoing about that, whether that is part of what resolves the government shutdown right now, and maybe doing that and coming back and discussing that in the future? Is that still at the heart of the issue? Are they still trying to resolve that issue, or are there others?
Right, that seems to be the central issue from the Democrat standpoint. These tax subsidies, as you said, do expire at the end of this year, but open enrollment obviously opens at the end of this month. And so Democrats are worried if, they spend too much time delaying it, they could expire and not be renewed. But that's at the Democrats' center. They're saying that they won't pass a CR until an agreement is made on that front. But you have Republicans saying that that is unrelated to the government shutdown, that conversation can be saved for later in the year. So it's kind of caught in like a catch-22 situation where Democrats say they won't vote until they get negotiations, but Republicans say they won't negotiate until the government is reopened. So you're kind of stuck in that little loop there.
Cammie, last week we interviewed one of our legislators here on the show, and his take was this, and maybe I'm wrong because I did get a texter that said, "Scortis, you're wrong," which happens occasionally. But that when the Affordable Care Act was passed, it had a limit into the subsidies that were provided, but then they were increased when COVID came. And what we're talking about is the extension of those increased subsidies. And I don't know if I've explained that very well, but the congressman said, look, all we're doing is going back to what Obamacare was at the beginning and not having this enhanced or increased subsidies. I don't know if that question makes sense, but is that accurate?
Yeah, so it is kind of an interesting thing here. So yeah, you are correct. It is those tax subsidies that were passed in the COVID era, and then they were extended by Democrats again under Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. And so Democrats did set that date to be the end of 2025 when they would expire. But now with those expiring without any kind of renewal or any kind of changes made, maybe some reform, it will go back to what those original tax subsidies were before the COVID era, which means those premiums would go up, as you said. So they want some kind of agreement that they can make sure it's either, a gradual renewal back to that, or, Republicans are saying reform on the entire system needs to be made. But that is essentially what the issue is here, yes.
I'm so curious about what happens next. It seems, the administration has a lot of levers to pull. And one of the things that they're talking about going into this shutdown was we may convert some of these furloughs into RIFs, where there might be getting to that stage where we start seeing some of that happening. Of course, it won't happen to your wife, of course, Greg, I'm sure. But you start looking at what happens to some of these employees.
Right.
How real is this fear or of some, or maybe the sort of the assertions of the administration that RIFs are coming?
And so that's kind of the question that Democrats are kind of playing with right now. They're trying to call that as a bluff. They've said that we've seen the Trump administration already fire several federal workers over the last year and even have to go back and rehire some of them. And so they're kind of trying to call bluff to say that, well, they've been firing people this whole time. They would have done this anyway. It's not anything new. And eventually they're going to need those federal workers back. And so Democrats are trying to call that as a bluff. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is saying that, these are things that we have to do. We're being pushed into a corner. They're already, cutting millions of dollars in different Democratic projects to cut funding. So it seems like just a pressure point that the Trump administration is trying to push. I think we'll see more if, they actually live up to these promises. But Democrats seem to think that it is, in fact, just a tactic of intimidation.
So, Cammie, the Democrats want these subsidies to remain for a while. The Republicans want to go back. Is there a middle ground? I know that's a silly question, but are they discussing anything other than just getting the 7 more votes for the Republican plan? Or I guess maybe 5
There
more
are
now.
some conversations. Right. There are some conversations happening behind the scenes between Senate Democrats and Republicans. None of those have really materialized into an actual proposal or plan. Every Democrat that I speak to after those meetings kind of have a different perspective of how those are going. You know, Chuck Schumer is saying that they're not offering anything new than what they're saying publicly. Others are kind of floating around different, year-long extensions. So there's really not a plan out there yet that's being floated, but they are conversations that are happening, and I would expect that they'll probably continue throughout this week, especially as the government shutdown, continues to drag on.
I'm always curious how the sides sort of play this out, like who is responsible ultimately for this. And there's even polling around the country that kind of gets into who people think is responsible for the shutdown. How is that playing out with people who you are talking to Cammie? Because it's really it's the politics of this. Is there's the issues, but then there's the politics of it, and who ends up taking the blame for the consequences.
Absolutely, and I think that's probably the most interesting question so far. And people that I've talked to, this is my first government shutdown since I've started working up here, but people who I've talked to who have been here for other shutdowns say that usually it's pretty obvious one party to blame for any shutdown, but that this one's a little bit different and unique in the fact that both parties seem to have strong arguments blaming the other. And then as you can see in any polls, voters are kind of split on who they blame for this. And so that's kind of an interesting perspective that, you have two strong messaging points and people aren't really swayed one way or the other. And I think as this continues to drag on, maybe that'll flip one way or the other. But as of right now, they both have equally strong arguments that voters are, they're split. They don't know who to believe.
Thanks, Cammie. That was Cammie Mondeau, political reporter for the Deseret News. I don't know, Jason. She didn't seem optimistic that we were going to get this passed today.
I didn't sense that from her at all.
That's too bad. But again, I'm glad she ended with that response to your question, which was, is there something going on? And she said that there are some discussions. There are also some discussions going on in the Utah legislature right now. That is this Map C to be considered by the court for the Utah's next congressional map. We'll tell you all you need to know next. Remember, that's coming up and streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by Your Service Pros.
We honor President Russell M. Nelson.
Can family life endure beyond this period of mortal probation? Yes.
Next Tuesday, KSL will broadcast the memorial and final tributes to President Nelson from noon until 2.
My dear brothers and sisters,
remembering President Russell M. Nelson.
The best is yet to come.
Starting Tuesday at noon on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on.
And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure sells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope, we have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems, like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. With honest conversations that let them know what we expect. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be shared with friends or family. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Inside Sources.
We started the show this morning, and I'm alongside Jason Perry. But Jason, at 9 o'clock when this show started, the Legislative Special Committee that had dealt with the Better Boundaries issue, the redistricting, had met. They'd had public hearings. They had discussed and sort of proposed their various maps. They voted this morning at 8 o'clock, this select group, on what they are calling Map C, which divides Utah different than the current division. They the general session, the general special session is meeting now. We assume that sometime before the session ends, they will formally adopt Map C, and then that will go toward an evidentiary hearing that the judge is having in a couple of weeks, where she will hear arguments as to why that passes muster under Prop 4. And if you recall, Proposition 4 was one of those rare things in Utah, the voter initiative, where the voters went to the ballot. And in 2018, they actually went on 3 issues. One was medical cannabis,
right.
One was expanded Medicaid, and one was redistricting. And the legislature, of course, the devil's in the details, because you say, oh, well, the citizens want legal marijuana. Well, the legislature has to define what that means. We want better boundaries. Well, the legislature has to define what that means. At least that's what the legislature is saying. Hey, you voted us in office. What can we do? And they have this Better Boundaries Commission, and some people didn't like what happened there. It ended up with a lawsuit. The lawsuit told the legislature, your map is illegal. You do need to give deference to the citizens. You do need to do that. Go back to the drawing board and give us some maps. And I think the legislature is claiming, and we talked to Todd Weiler this morning, that they now have got that done. They now have a fair map.
I think if we picked any of those 6 maps, including Map C, I think the judge would, pretty much be duty-bound to accept it, because her job as a gatekeeper is to make sure that the map comports with Prop 4. And in my opinion, all 6 of them do. So I think she will rubber stamp whatever map the legislature forwards her, because they're going to have expert witness testimony that says, yes, this meets all the elements of Prop 4.
We did speak with the executive director of Better Boundaries, Elizabeth Rasmussen, who said she has some concerns about it.
I did appreciate that they really focused on keeping cities and counties together, so that was something that was very refreshing to see. However, we are concerned about Brammer's bill, which fundamentally redefines Proposition 4 and how it measures the map's fairness. So we're very concerned about that coming up today during special session.
So, Jason, if you look at the current makeup, the current map, it divides Salt Lake County 4 ways. And there's some joke, whether it's true or not, that there's like this intersection in Mill Creek that you can walk a few blocks and you can be in any of 4 districts. And I think that people felt like, well, that's not fair. So all of the maps, all of the 6 maps, divide Salt Lake 2 ways, as my understanding. And of course, you have to divide Salt Lake 2 ways because, and I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible, state has 3.2 million people. Divided by 4, you have districts that have 817,000 people in each one. How do you divide the state into 817,000 4 ways? And the way you do that is you got to divide Salt Lake County in half, because we have 1.5 million people. So under any circumstance, Salt Lake's going to be divided in half. You mentioned earlier, the pizza designation and the donut designation, but the legislature's done what they can to not divide it 4 ways, but to at least divide it 2 ways.
Yeah, that's the current. All the maps have sort of that same approach to Salt Lake County. And what you just said is exactly right. For the people who said, maybe we just kind of keep this donut. And this really is the right idea. And there are arguments on both sides of this, whether or not you create sort of a donut around Salt Lake County, or you create this pizza, which is what we have right now. You have a mix of urban and rural. And our legislature does feel like the best representation is one where you have to consider both of those 2 perspectives. But what's interesting in this particular case is because of the size of Salt Lake County, it's going to be divided no matter what. So the question is, what are those boundaries there? And that, of course, is where the largest Democratic population is in that particular part. So it is going to have some impact. But Salt Lake County is going to be divided without question. Map C it's a little bit like what we have now, except for Salt Lake County not being divided in 4, but you still have that congressional district along the top part of the state of Utah, which is highly centered around military, Hill Air Force Base, and then 2 along the east and the west side of the state, but keeping to that principle of representation, the urban and the rural.
Yeah, and so the legislature will then propose these maps, and I think what they're going to do, what we heard from Weiler, is that the judge will actually have an evidentiary hearing. She'll take evidence from the state's, the Republicans, let's face it, expert, who will say, I'm an expert on this is what I do, and this map falls within the 4 corners of your ruling, Judge, and the way that Prop 4 was written, that it falls within those parameters, and this is fair under Prop 4 and your ruling. I think that's what they intend to do.
Well, that's what we got from Senator Weiler this morning as well, and I guess that would make sense, sort of be consistent under the law as well. This was a very big concern of legislators, where what would happen if the court decided they would pick the map, when the Constitution clearly gives that power to the legislature to help draw these maps. Of course, we have the initiative process at play as well. But that is what we understand is likely to be the case. Judge Gibson said that these are the parameters of Prop 4 that you have to follow. It wasn't all of Prop 4, but there were certain parameters. And the legislature, I guess, feels like they picked one that does that. We'll see.
Yeah, the Republicans actually came out and said, during the public comment period, which was 10 days, ended yesterday, the 5th, and they said, we would like your endorsement of Map C. Democratic Party Chair Brian King wasn't too happy about that.
Here's my grievance about that, and this came up last week, and I, told my colleague on the other side of the aisle, the party chair of the Republican Party, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. What we need to do, again, it gets back to this polarization issue. Polarization isn't in anybody's interest. What we really need are fair maps that reflect the will of the people of the state of Utah and reflect good redistricting principles.
But I would say, to push back on Brian a little bit, the Republicans proposed 5 maps, and they said, here's 5, we'd like C the best, and they were hoping that the public would agree. The Democrats only proposed 1, so of course that's their map. So I don't know. I mean, I think there was some concern that the Republicans were weighing in on a particular map, but they drew the maps. I don't know that I agree with that problem as much as King states.
Well, they are the party in power, and they get to draw the maps, and they did submit several. Of course, we had Luz Escamilla and Representative Owens also submitted a map as well that also divided Salt Lake County in some way with different proportions. But right now we're seeing just this interesting sort of interplay between constitutional powers and the court, and also the power of the parties in this particular case. And so we'll see if they found the right line or not.
Yeah, and so the special session of the legislature is on right now. Weiler told us he thought it would end at 3:00 today, and there are 11 items on the agenda, and we haven't even talked about the other 10. I think there are 2 that were sort of grouped. We could talk about Brammer's bill and the redistricting. There's one, we've only got a minute left, but that I wanted to ask you about, and that's this one that would change the way, I don't know if this is significant or not, that the Supreme Court, that the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court is selected. Right now it's selected from among the justices. The 5 get together and decide who will be the chair, the chief. They want the governor to make that appointment. And I don't know that it's significant, or if it's just a kind of a message bill to the Utah Supreme Court.
Well, it certainly was a message, because there were lots of issues that the legislature had with the courts over decisions of various kinds. But what's interesting on this one right here is even the governor said when it came to him, he had concerns about this. And so apparently the compromise is yes, the governor appoints the chief justice, but it's not on an election cycle. So it doesn't, hey, I'm running for governor, you vote for me, I pick a chief justice that my party is going to like. That's apparently how they got the governor to say, okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you look at the makeup of our Supreme Court, every one of them was appointed by a Republican governor. Every one was confirmed by a huge majority Republican Senate. So it's not like we have a liberal-leaning or left-leaning judge. I mean, I think our Supreme Court right now is one of the best in the country, and I think our courts are in general, but the legislature gets a little snippy every time they get ruled against on these issues.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I sat on the Appellate Court Nominating Commission for a very long time, and it's interesting. The first question any of them get asked is, if you get a particular case in front of you and the text says one thing, you have an opinion on to the other side, what do you do? Right. We know what the answer better be.
That's right. Well, we'll hear at the end of the session today everything that they've decided up there on those 11 or 12 issues. Salt Lake City was as busy as it was rainy this weekend at the semi-annual General Conference as that came and went. We're going to be joined by KSL TV's Carol Makita to recap the weekend and what to expect going forward. Stay with us on KSL News Radio. Remember, you can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour: hundreds of people have been filing into the conference center, filing into the conference center of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints today to pay their respects to the late president of the church, President Russell M. Nelson. David and Melinda Suttner drove all the way from Kansas to say goodbye to President Nelson. The Suttners compared how much President Nelson did in his life to build up the church to the church's first president, Joseph Smith.
I feel he lived his life saving lives, and in a physical way. And then he moved on to saving lives in a spiritual way. I can think of no greater prophet besides the prophet Joseph himself.
The public viewing for President Nelson lasts until 8 o'clock tonight. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A traditional staple of the American dinner table has never been more expensive. ABC's Jim Ryan reports.
At 86.6 million head, the U.S. cattle herd is at its smallest since 1951. Drought in cattle-producing states gets part of the blame. So do tariffs imposed on imported beef. And then there's the New World screwworm, which has infected cattle in Mexico, crimping the supply of beef from that country.
Beef prices have shot up over 14% in the last year. Your money at this moment: the Dow still off. It's off 53 points. The S&P, though, is up 29 points, and the NASDAQ has gained 173 points. Coming up, it's cool today, but warming up soon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Cooler weather. What a relief. Unless you have old drafty windows. Soon the heat will escape through the cracks and your energy bill's going to go through the roof. So now's the time to call Advanced Window Products and get brand new state-of-the-art custom windows and frames at factory direct pricing. The factory is right here in Salt Lake City, where they've been building precision windows since 1986, and you're going to save a lot of money since there's no middleman markup. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows. Even better, call now and they'll give you an extra $2,500 off. on 10 windows or more. Double pane argon-filled windows with a low-energy triple coating, any style, any color, and advanced windows gives you a lifetime warranty. If you have an issue, they're not 10 states away. They're right here in town, and they offer 0% 60-month financing. So make the call now. Get $2,500 off. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Comcast Business can help turn your small business into a connected, secure, modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How healthcare offices become the data-protecting caregivers that we all depend on. And how wealth management firms become cyber-securing guardians of your information. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, and Wi-Fi backup, your business can stay connected and get threat-ready with Comcast Business. Powering possibilities.
Now through November 16th, new Comcast Business customers can get started with 150 megabit internet plus security for $59.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig package. Call today. Restrictions apply. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and auto-pay with bank account. Early termination fee applies. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra.
Makita's built for the pros who show up early, who don't do shortcuts, only precise cuts. With tools built to last, job after job, year after year. Performance that pays off, because when the job calls for the best, you answer. And when you need the best, you call on Makita. Built to be the best. Available at the Home Depot.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Annie's first oil change wasn't as hard as she thought, because she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Michelle Rowe.
I-15 running at posted speeds from Brigham City to Santaquin. They are in the final clearing stages. Just one Highway Patrol cruiser left northbound I-15 at that crash that was at Center Street in Provo. Take UTA instead of driving and actually enjoy your ride. Try UTA to see the difference. Plan your trip at rideuta.com or on the Transit app. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We get cool fall temperatures today and tomorrow, highs in the mid-60s, but as we move through the week, it'll get back up to 80 degrees with mostly sunny skies. Right now, it's 54 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. Remembering President Russell M. Nelson. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Hundreds of people have been filing into the Conference Center of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to pay their respects to the late president of the church, President Russell M. Nelson. David and Melinda Suttner drove all the way from Kansas to say goodbye to President Nelson. The Suttners compared how much President Nelson did in his life to build up the church and the church's first president.
I feel he lived his life saving lives, and in a physical way. And then he moved on to saving lives in a spiritual way. I can think of no greater prophet besides the prophet Joseph himself.
So we're joined in studio this morning by Carol Makita. And Carol, we had you come join us. This is KSL TV's Carol Makita. We had you join us last week a couple of times to talk about the leading up to General Conference. And now we've had it. And I wanted to talk about two events, significant events that occurred in literally the days before conference.
Yes.
One was the passing of President Nelson, and the second was this horrible shooting in Michigan.
Yes.
Do you suppose, or did you get a sense during the conference that those events transformed the mood or the feeling or some of the speakers?
I think it was an opportunity for the speakers to offer comfort and to talk about the tragedy not only in Michigan, but also some months ago in Lesotho.
Right.
The Michigan was a criminal tragedy. The Lesotho accident was a head-on collision where several church members were died, and also a mention of the constancy of these tragedies that happen throughout the world and in so many people's lives. So yes, you had several speakers take that opportunity in their talks, rewriting, I think, in this last week to mention those and to try to offer comfort and peace for those who are struggling. So yes, that certainly was part of it, and also an opportunity to remember. And I feel quite sure that a number of the speakers had included the words of President Nelson in their talks even before his passing. So that happened.
It seemed to be that was one of the dominating themes there too. Maybe break that down just a little bit. Some of those messages of President Nelson carrying forward to the themes of our time, the tragedies, the opportunities.
Well, I think one of the really lovely talks was given by Elder Renlund when he talked about Dr. Craig Salzman, who is a wonderful cardiothoracic surgeon at the University of Utah and was named the Dr. Nelson and Dansel Nelson surgeon. And this happened a few years ago when he was given that award. And we have seen pictures of him with Dr. Nelson, and he was there when Dr. Nelson gave his journals to the University of Utah. I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Salzman last year, and he was very gracious. And I was very moved. Here is this brilliant surgeon, and when I was talking about Dr. Nelson and him wearing a pin with Dr. Nelson's initials on it, he said, the first thing he said to me was, "I'm not worthy." And I thought, it was an intake of breath for me. And then he named all the qualities he had most admired about Dr. Nelson. And then he said to me, "The man is with me all the time." And I thought, what an incredible statement, all of these statements to have made. I wonder if I am pondering the goodness and the gentleness and the kindness and the thoughtfulness and the intelligence of the man who's the president of the church all the time. And of course, Elder Renlund went on to say, are you pondering this in terms of Jesus Christ? So it was a lovely talk, one I will remember for a long time. And several times, and we talked last week, Greg, about the idea of President Nelson pushing peacemaker, be a peacemaker, and we heard that several times in conference.
It's interesting, Carol, because he served as a medical leader, a medical researcher, had in just the highest accolades you could imagine. I mean, he was a leader in every way. He assumed he became apostle, I think, for some 20 some odd years, yes. And he was president. But he was named president of the church when he was in his 90s,
93,
and yes. Of course, we know he died when he was 101. But his legacy as a prophet and as a president of the church is quite remarkable in the time that he spent there, given that he had already had a very established career before he even made that position.
His longevity is remarkable, and the time in which he practiced as a doctor, a surgeon, and the confidence with which he approached his medical practice and thought past what was happening in that time and sought to do it better and be more progressive, and literally changed surgery the world over. Yes, I think there are many around the world who are remembering what he did in that realm.
I'll tell you, it's a conversation continually at the University of Utah. The
Yes.
foundation that he set there was a standard that everyone continues to aspire to. Do you mind taking just a moment to talk about sort of the events happening now, the viewing that started just this morning at 9 o'clock? Will you please tell us what's happening there?
Yes, we just heard from Church Communications, and they released photographs, and will probably release footage later. But the viewing taking place on the conference center's 3rd floor, where there are bronze busts of each of the church presidents, and certainly President Nelson there. His body is lying in repose in an open casket there, and tens of thousands, I think, by the end of the day will file past to pay their respects. Tomorrow is the funeral, and that is at 12 p.m. in the conference center. It's open to the public, ages 8 and older. Tickets are required, and if you're there for standby seating, you're told to line up outside the tabernacle 90 minutes before the funeral. And it will be broadcast live, I know, on KSL radio and on KSL television. And interestingly enough, in, I'm going to say, 36 languages. And certainly on the church's website as well. So we will hear tomorrow, I'm sure, from family members as well as church leaders, and there will be a great deal of music, I would think, because that's one of his favorite things.
We had a little bit of a prelude to that with the ceremony. There was a really interesting 1-hour segment that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints did last week in anticipation of conference.
Yes.
And after his death. That I think that would have given us a little bit of a snapshot into what we might be seeing tomorrow.
I think very much so, and that I think we talked about happening because conference has a different message, and people would have felt as though they needed to rewrite conference talks to pay tribute to him if that tribute had not taken place. So that was a balance there. But there will probably be perhaps even a lighter side to things if we have family members sharing personal stories about President Nelson as a father or grandfather or great-grandfather.
If you don't mind, take just a moment and talk about sort of what happens next. Of course, the first presidency is disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Quorum of the 12. Talk about what happens, maybe some historical perspective about the current status.
Yes. My colleague Daniel Woodruff did a very interesting story with that historical perspective last week. There have been several times through the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when the governing body is the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. And so at a meeting after the funeral at some point in time, doesn't have to be this week, it could be, there will be the formation of a first presidency, and we know that the presiding officer, who is now President Dallin H. Oaks, President of the Quorum of the 12, will be ordained as the prophet, and then is his choice with 2 counselors. And, of course, with the passing of President Nelson, there is a need to call another apostle to the Quorum of the 12. So there is much work to do along those lines. But as President Oaks has said, the work goes forward. It's just the governing body is larger at this point in time and without a first presidency.
Thanks, Carol. That's Carol Makita, KSL TV. When we come back, we will come back in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
I have to admit, it drives me nuts when we start talking about Christmas so early in the year, but it is a good time right now for you to make your reservations for the family gathering, for the company party, all kinds of special events during the holidays. Make your reservations right now. It's not too early at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. What a great way to welcome out-of-town guests, to thank your employees for a great year at your business. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse during the holidays, too, is just magical. The 2 locations, Hotel Park City, right up there in that beautiful mountain environment, and of course where all the hustle and bustle of the city is happening, 275 Southwest Temple in Salt Lake City. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse for the holidays, and you will get that perfectly prepared steak and so much more at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. I mean, mop job.
Swift for power mop. Swift for power mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 1989, Community Options has transformed the lives of more than 6,600 individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, along with their families, across the country. Through support, guidance, and meaningful opportunities, the organization is creating lasting, positive change. State Director Ashlyn Visser joins us with more.
At Community Options, we help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities live more independent, fulfilling, and meaningful lives every day. We offer housing, employment, and day services that support inclusion, personal growth, and community connection. From helping someone live in a safe and affordable home to supporting them in meaningful work or getting involved in local activities. Our programs are all about helping people thrive, succeed, and reach their full potential. We operate in 12 states, including right here in the state of Utah, with a dedicated team that works closely with each individual to support their goals and ambitions. Community Options purchased a commercial building in the heart of Salt Lake City that is a premium office space for small businesses. This building, the Daily Planet, will provide competitive employment opportunities for adults with developmental disabilities. Learn more about our programs, services, and ways to get involved at comop.org.
Community Options plays a key role in building inclusive communities where individuals with disabilities are actively engaged and supported. Their programs help reduce isolation, strengthen family support networks, and contribute to more connected, vibrant communities across the state. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
The new Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I am your host this morning, Greg Skordas. It's still morning, isn't it, Jason?
Is it still? Yes, I think so.
Alongside my friend Jason Perry. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you today, and it was an interesting day because we had a lot to cover. And I want to just recap a few things before we get onto our segment about what's for dinner, and that is we started today with. And it's interesting we started at 9 o'clock because that's the same time the legislative special session started. They met the select group that was set aside to propose the maps for the judge on the redistricting met. They voted on their new map at 8 o'clock. They had that decided by 8:10. I think the legislature probably voted on the map by 9:10, although there were a number of other issues. We're trying to get an update on that. But given what you know, and just with your legal acumen, do you think that they've done enough? Do you think that they've done enough to get over the hurdle of Prop 4 of what the judges ordered, and that we are going to, in fact, have a map certain for the 2026 election?
Yeah, this is such an interesting dynamic.
Right.
First, when we had committee hearings, the legislature pretty much said we're doing this under protest.
Right.
Because
that was right out of the chute.
It was. That's how they started the hearing. And the reason why they said that is, many in the legislature feel like they shouldn't have had to redraw the maps because the Constitution gives them the power to do that. So we're seeing a lot of dynamics at play. And so what we understand is this map C, which is the one favored by Republicans. It's interesting because even the Republican Party sent out an email saying we like map C. Which you don't always see that happening, but you did this case. But the judge said these are the parameters you have to follow. And it sounds like we're going to have an actual hearing where we will see if the parameters were met. And if they were met, it seems like the judge is going to have to say yes. or she may say no. I guess we'll see how well they
If she
do.
says no, who knows where we go? So I'm a sort of a might is right attitude. That is, we elected legislators. They created these maps, and so those should obviously be our map. But when the citizens go to the ballot box, which they rarely do, Jason, and they have a ballot initiative, what they're saying to me is to the legislature, we don't like what you've done, or we think maybe we should weigh in because we last year the Senate president said, if we have ballot initiatives, we're going to be like California one day, and we'll have 30 or 40 on the ballot at a time, and he may be right. He certainly knows his stuff, but I don't see that happening in Utah. We don't have ballot initiatives. In 1 year, in 2018, we had 3. We've talked about those, but it's to me, it's rare when the citizens say, "Hey, wait a minute, we ought to enact this law. We ought to legalize marijuana. We ought to change these boundaries which don't seem fair." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It goes right back to the Utah Constitution. You and I love these kinds of things,
yes.
this kind of conversation. But the Constitution specifically says, this is the Utah Constitution, says the legislative power is vested in the legislators, those that we elect, and in the people. And what's interesting in this particular case here, and this is what some legislators are saying as well, is if you are a legislator and you pass a bill, no one ever thinks no one can ever touch it again. They mess with the bills every single session.
Sure.
And that's what's interesting about this one right here as well, is when the people step up, and it is not easy to pass an initiative without question. So that's something we have to kind of discuss also. But when the people do stand up and they pass something, and this was a very narrow victory of Prop 4, just over 50% of Utahns, even at the time, is what do you do over time when things change, when there isn't an initiative on the books? And I'm not sure that is entirely resolved right now with either any of these court cases.
Right, and we often think of, okay, the census comes out every 10 years. We have a new census. We obviously have to change legislative districts, or at least if we've grown. And we've grown in Utah. We had 2. We went to 3 legislators. Now we're up to 4. That's how long I've been around. And so, yeah, you've got to draw the maps. So who draws them? And we count on the legislature to do that. Historically, there hasn't been a problem. But this year, some citizen groups got together and said, you're not following the will of the citizens. A judge came in and said, you're right. And I have to hand it to the courts here, Jason, in Utah, and even nationally, that this whole idea of check and balance is so important to what we do in this country, because let's face it, our legislature has a veto-proof supermajority. They don't have to do anything the Democrats want, and they don't really have to do anything the governor wants, because they can override that. And so our checks and balances are limited to the courts, and the courts have stepped up to the plate, much to their own grief. We've had issues with the Roe versus Wade getting flipped over, and what happens to Utah's trigger law. We had issues with respect to I think it was unions, and judges will say, hey, wait a minute, this is not constitutional under Utah's constitutional, and the legislature is like, what are you doing? You got these activist judges, which we have nothing of the sort here in Utah. We have good judges that the legislature has worked with. We have lawyers on the legislature. But to me, it's such an important thing that we do, and we see in this country when we do see how the 3 branches of government work together.
It's just such an interesting and brilliant observation. It's exactly right. Maybe more than in a time that I can remember in distant memory, where you saw all 3 branches very much engaged, very much checking on each other, maybe causing a little consternation for the other one. So it's maybe as it was intended all along.
Yeah, and then we go nationally. And before we get to the government shutdown, we've got a very powerful executive branch, not like our governor here, who's wonderful, but let's face it, he's got a very powerful legislature, and a legislature, House and Senate, at least the Republicans, that don't seem to want to push the envelope with President Trump. And our courts hold the line until it gets to the Supreme Court, and then we've got some concern there that maybe this 6-3 Republican-led, I don't know. I mean, I still have a lot of confidence in or optimism with our courts, including the United States Supreme Court. But what's happening nationally, isn't as comforting as what's happening here locally.
Well, it's true. And if you start talking about that check and balance, of course, the court you just mentioned, but it's interesting when you have an executive branch that is pushing the powers of executive orders more than we have seen for some time. At what point does that legislative branch step in and say some of these are our powers? Right now, it seems like that's not happening quite as much, and that's why you see the executive branch, the president, weighing in the way he is on the actions of Congress.
So, but let me just mention two names, and let me just and if these two former senators were still around in the Senate, would we be having the same conversation? I'm thinking of Mitt Romney and John McCain. You know what I mean? Those are two that may have. Because it doesn't seem like anybody's standing up to the president. And maybe because we all feel like he's got an agenda, let's let him write it out. I've heard people say that. He came in with an agenda, let's let it write out. But it would be nice if there was a little more pushback in Congress.
Well, I think that instead of just the normal kind of the full pushback, at least my observation on some is some of the members of Congress, ours in particular, are just finding an issue.
Right.
Maybe I'll just push back on this one thing, find my opportunities so people don't feel like they're just accepting all of it. But it is a very hard balance that they're trying to find because what every elected official wants most is to be reelected. And so you have to find your balance.
Unfortunately, that's true. But you would also think this, and we've only got a few seconds left, there are a lot of legislators and probably some senators who are not seeking reelection. I mean, not everybody runs. What are they doing? I'm not. Let's say I'm a senator and I'm a Republican. I'm going to retire. Do you still just play the game?
Well, I don't know. I do feel like what was kind of behind what you just talked about too. We do need to get back to actual policy. That is what we need most of all. And some of the issues that we're grappling with in our country are significant. And they're policy questions more than just political questions.
Jason Perry, thank you for joining me this morning. You've been a lot of fun to work with, and every time I see you, I realize how much I miss working with you. Next up, Maria Shilaos is going to tell you everything you need to know about today's special session called by Governor Spencer Cox. Midday with Maria Shilaos is up next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.
This is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time is 12 o'clock noon, and this is Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top story this hour. Utah lawmakers are in a special session today to finalize new congressional maps after a